That's funny. Order of operations matters. All right. Hoping this can be sort of a community discussion. So I'm going to put a. I was planning on doing this tomorrow, actually. So, but PP wasn't feeling good today, and so um, it's not quite a substitute, but I guess it'll have to do. What the? What's going on? All right. So what this is going to be is well, one an adventure, but some some things started coming together as far as why Pulte might be involved, and with Bed Bath and Beyond, even if he's not involved with Bed Bath and Beyond, maybe he just likes the ape community, or maybe he just likes uh, our generation, which would be millennials, maybe Gen Z, um, Gen X. Actually, there's kind of everyone in the ape community, and it's people that are enthusiastic and community minded. So, in that vein of thought, so I don't know if anyone knows what this picture is, but this was supposed to be Walt Disney's future city called Epcot, and like he built Disney, but he was like, till his dying day, he was like obsessed with this city and the idea of the city, and so I think a lot of civilizations throughout time, you can see, even the colonization of the West, different groups that settled wherever, um, like Utah, the idea of building a utopia, um, even, back in, I mean, all of Europe, right? Like each different town is like kind of known for its infrastructure, and you I was gonna do some research and look at the timeline of the big cities in the United States and the technology behind them. For example, Chicago was really big at one time. Detroit was really big at one time. I mean, New York City, and so these different places developed because of a certain technology, uh, like whether it's the steel mining. I think that's what it was in Detroit, which enabled them to then build cars. And in Chicago, I mean, there was a port there. Not sure all the reasons. I don't know if that was. And then you have San Francisco, right? Like as someone that grew up in California, I'm aware of the West Coast and the people that San Francisco was a big deal because ever since even the Spanish came in and started building. So, what's the next big city, and what's it going to revolve around? Um, so, another picture of Epcot, or a concept drawing of how he imagined it. and thinking about all the ways that it would that they'd have like nonstop traffic. You could just drive through it, and the idea of it being he liked the spoke, the wheel kind of perspective of the city being like this. Everything comes to the center. And if you watch any sort of documentaries about his town, you'll see a lot of bad things. I think it was ahead of its time as far as, I think society, it's hard to keep up with the technology. And I think we live in quite a different world. It was quite a more simple society back in the day where you had a tribe, you had a chief, a shaman, maybe, um, a midwife, that there was just like certain things, there wasn't huge gaps in knowledge bases between the regular people, and it made society kind of on the same level playing field. But with technology and even just the role cars would play, right, was a big I don't want to say controversy for Walt Disney, but that was a difficult question. So, oh man, oops. Oh yeah, so I was just gonna say, we can see that this idea of like building a famous city, like Rome or something, is uh, is now coming back. For example, this is the new Cairo. Egypt is putting in a huge amount of their money to build a city, and it's quite impressive. They want to create a platform where people, tourism will come in, where the World Cup will be played, all these sorts of things, and you see that's their vision, right, for it, and they're actually making quite a bit of progress towards it. Um, so we have some. Oh yeah, this is another concept art of the new Cairo. Um, but this isn't quite the Jetsons, but they're it's pretty impressive, the cities. I think we've realized that building a city isn't just a matter of trying to get tall buildings. That there's other social components that come into building a functional society. I mean, we've kind of seen probably in the news what's happened to places like San Francisco, where there's lots of looting. And I mean, if anyone's been there, it just definitely doesn't smell good. And so it takes more than just planning where the streets go in order to make a city thrive. And so I was hoping this could be a discussion about what would have to happen in order to build a better city. So these are kind of lofty ideas, but oh, and also there's so this is what Saudi Arabia is actually, I guess they already started building, right? This is called the Line Project, if anyone wants to look it up. And Prince Ben Salman, he wants to leave his legacy, and this is his idea for the legacy, is this huge city. And inside this line, there's going to be, again, a big World Cup status soccer field, and that the whole city is going to be green and lush inside of these walls. That way, it keeps out of um, the hot sun, which I don't know, seems pretty cool. Um, so, have we seen? So this is the a little part of what Disney died before his city, the Epcot city, actually got underway. But they finally did make a small town called um, Celebration, Florida. I think it was called something different, and there was some bad stuff that happened there. I think a couple murders and whatnot, and it just became too much of a liability for Disney. But it was kind of an interesting concept in that they had a movie theater, they have a restaurant. Um, I think one of the main downfalls is that they were trying to build a community based around nostalgia, which isn't something you can just kind of produce on a regular basis. Um, Nike head says oil money is the past, tourism is the future. Yeah, no, for Saudi Arabia, they know that if they run out of oil, that they want to build an infrastructure because part of what brings people to America is just the level of freedom we have here. People can spread out, buy a property. I know a lot of people made money in San Francisco and then they move up the hill to have their own space. People go out from around this area, and a lot of them bought land in either Idaho or actually Montana. And I know some people in Montana didn't like that because they're like, oh, these Californians come and put up all their fences, and that's not how we roll. So there's a lot of things we want, and it's hard to balance all of them, to have freedom but also have safety, but to also have services, right? We all have services. We were talking on a Twitter space just today, and they're talking about health services, right? Well, if you have a gym membership, right? If you have um, there's a lot of things that you have: your car insurance, your house insurance. And so I'm jumbling around a lot, but um, I think the idea of packaging all those things into one could make it a lot more affordable. And I'll get back to that in a second. No, it's not. Well, so so this is Celebration. Um, and even though it seemed to kind of fail, I mean, it seems a lot better now. But the idea of a master planned community is now becoming quite the industry standard. Pulte said something when he came on the PP show. He said that people are ready for a more curated experience. And thinking about that in the sense of housing, that having certain amenities that you don't have to pay for. I know the idea of the World Economic Forum saying not own anything and be happy about it is quite terrifying. But I think the concept of ownership is difficult. And what do you really own? You only own what you can defend, and you can only, like, what can you really defend? Well, we can only defend things here in America because we have a military, because we have a police force, you know, because we have constitutional rights of self-protection, all these things. So the idea of ownership and protection is very complicated, and I don't know that there's any way to perfectly balance it, which is why I think it should be a constant discussion. And we can start to see the general trends and the preference towards that. And this is one of them. This I don't remember exactly where this. I think it was in Texas somewhere. Texas has been building a lot of these master plan communities, but you have a gym in one of these, and there's like a game room, a restaurant, a cafe, and they have basketball courts, tennis courts. It's all kind of wrapped into, I guess, the HOA fees. And I think that actually can help it be at a come at a better cost, because we have to pay, like, if well, I guess I'll get to that in a second. Um, but here are some of there's quite a few of these different master plan communities, and I think we kind of seen the evolution of apartment complexes offering a gym, offering all these different things. And but not everyone wants to live in an apartment, and not everyone wants to live in a suburb either. Um, here in Sacramento, we have a famous gated community, right? They have their own clubhouse, their own golf course, um, and they're a lot more expensive houses, and they kind of priced people out of that sort of way of life. But when you utilize economy of scale, a big company like Pulte Homes can come in and build houses. I mean, some of these are actually pretty cheap. I don't know if the video was old, but it said somewhere in like the 300,000s. I'm like, how the crap could you even have something like that? Um, yeah, yeah, affordable clubs for regular neighborhoods. Yeah, is a game changer. And so let's see. Um, Sorry to jump around. Oh yeah. So we all know what the inevitable step is. If Saudi Arabia is building the line, Elon Musk is going to want to build the X. So um, okay. So I mean, here are just some of the amenities. I just Googled and found a list. Swimming pool, fitness center, laundry facility, gated access. Right. Some people saw that. I did a poll. Haven't gotten that many people yet to take the poll. Actually, I should put the poll um, in the chat. That way, 24 people have taken it right now, but if we get a few more, that'd be great. Only 4 questions. All right. So I think there's more services than this that we would want. And when you bundle them together, so this is a good example is the Winsung Ranch. They have it's called a master plan community. It says homes from the 300s. I don't know if that's correct or how old that is, but that's pretty crazy if true. 600 acres of parks, creeks, lakes, and trails, fitness center, and a cafe, and resort style pools. So, I was thinking about that little cafe. It's kind of cool. But I actually like looked at the menu because I'm curious, like, are they utilizing the economy of scale to actually give a better value? And if you look at this, it's, I don't know, uh, half again less than uh, Starbucks or Jamba Juice. So not too bad in my opinion. I think that that's kind of something that supply and demand eventually is going to push towards this, where efficiencies in the market, efficiencies in the products that are offered, like have to actually make sense. And so that's encouraging to me that it's already happening, and we'll probably see it happening more, which is why I think Pulte is making a push back to have more influence in Pulte homes, and I support that. So uh, this is also just, I mean, I was thinking about uh, how much the United States has invested in infrastructure, and it seems that they haven't, on a city building level, haven't really done a lot for a while. That San Francisco was built, LA was built, and it's been kind of, I guess, incremental changes. I know that there's, well, just on the scale of like planned, like something that people are going to want to come to. I actually rotated a hospital here, and I was looking for a gym, and it pointed me to these buildings, and I was thoroughly confused. I don't know. I'm not a city person, so I like walk in there, and I was like, "There's a gym here," and they're like, "Oh, it's downstairs." And so I literally went downstairs in this building, and then down 2 more floors, and I went under the middle of here, and then somewhere around here, was there was a gym. There was like a whole um, there was like a whole mall in there. It was like actually kind of creeped me out, to be honest. Like I got very claustrophobic. I'm like, man, if this thing crushes on me, I'm literally gonna be gone forever. Like no one will ever find me. Um, yeah, so that took a little while to get used to, but I thought it was like space maximizing as far as, when you go just to park anywhere in LA, it's literally $25, just to park there for several hours. It was ridiculous in my opinion. And also just the liability. I think that that's one thing that's changing is like people don't want to park places. Like I was in Atlanta recently and every parking lot said, had big signs say warning, don't leave anything valuable in your car. And so I think something about society kind of has to change. It's not really sustainable the way it is. People can't afford to pay $25 a day just to park their car. They can't afford to not, you know, be going, doing groceries and all that. And not leave stuff in their car that's valuable. So uh, we need more innovation, continued innovation in like how do we want to live? And this was a way that I don't know. I mean, I'd have to ask people that actually frequent there, but it makes sense to not make people run all over town. You know, like the idea of going on errands and being gone all day. I'm hoping is a thing of the past. Not that I want these World Economic Forum mandated 15-minute cities, but I also just don't want to be driving super long distances for basic things that I'd like. Um, Angel says in his city there's a whole tunnel system in the city. It's like an underground mail commute between buildings. That's cool, but that takes planning, right? And I think that we're kind of at a time now where we have the technology and the ability to plan, and that we're going to start to see that innovation come together in how people live. And not everyone's going to want to live in one of these buildings. I mean, to me, it was definitely big enough to where I might get used to it, but um, yeah, it was kind of odd to me. I mean, something like this looks great to me. Um, so outside of how this kind of ties into Bed Bath and Beyond is that they had a partnership or have a partnership with Kroger, and outside of this new housing community is a Kroger. Has a Starbucks in there. Um, that way, everything you kind of need is right there, and then you get anything else shipped in. Also, I think that there is something to say for. I like the idea of owning something, but I also know that some people, certain time periods in their life, they travel a lot, right? So not being tied to one place where yes, you own it, but property taxes and everything, it's so expensive to own it that I mean, you can't really afford to be gone. For example, paying rent here, where I'm at currently, it wasn't too bad to be gone for 3 weeks and literally not even use where I was staying for that time. Uh, but if I was paying a lot more money, it wouldn't really make sense. I don't know that as often do we actually calculate what our rent is per day. It's like kind of odd to think like, oh, I'm paying like $50 a day to live in my own house. I mean, you could get a hotel that has certain, amenities. You have a house cleaner and all that stuff for the same $50 a day. So does it really make sense, the prices and what everything's at? So I think that all kind of is going to start changing as things start shifting around. Let's see. Going to share the survey. Yep, still only. Oops. So it's just 24 people so far, but I just posted it. Um, so we had 12 people, 52% say they want to live out in the country, right? Well, it would make sense that something like one of those housing developments Um, would make sense. 5% said in the suburbs, one van life. That's me. Two, it depends. One, it depends if I'm rich or poor. I mean, that's very true. And I think it's like we see how each kind of city is laid out, and it we're our neighbors are just those in the same socioeconomic group, not necessarily those that we have anything in common with. And so, I mean, I think that having in the idea of a master plan community, right? Like even taking it to the next level, like, was it possible that what you contribute, you know, would allow you to, be able to live in a place that otherwise you couldn't afford? I don't know, but I think that it's something that as a society we should at least explore and see if there's some innovations that can happen. Because I mean, a lot of people don't know their neighbors and don't really want to try and. I mean, if it's like, hey, go knock on all the doors in your neighborhood, I don't know that a lot of people would want to do that. And that's kind of a pity. Um, I mean, we don't know how dependent we are on each other until crap hits the fan, and if crap does hit the fan, um, so we got one person in the hills, 30 to 45 minutes outside a big city. And that's the thing. That's where, a lot of Pulte Homes do their developments is, right outside of a big city. So it's far enough away to not have some of the trouble that comes from the city, but also close enough to where if you need to make the journey. But if you're like 30 to 45 minutes away from the city, think about all the things that you're going to want there close by. And so I imagine these kind of one-stop shop like super centers being the center of that, and not necessarily the Walmart. Walmart has its certain stigma, and even Target has its stigma that they're the idea of a G-American sort of experience is appealing to me and probably a lot of people. Do you prefer to have a gate or restricted access to where you live? Um, it looks like more than half people said it depends. And it's true. It depends on where you live and how much money you have and what stage of life you're in. Um, but that there's a lot, it seems like more than half the people are at least thinking like what that would entail. Like what it's something they're considering. And because that was one problem with the celebration, Florida, the Disney housing development, was that someone just drove in and committed crimes, right? But they wanted to show off the town. They wanted it to be like this quaint little town that was like a tourist attraction for people to watch other people living their regular lives, which is kind of a weird um, thing. And so it's like, well, is it better just to have a gated community so that your kids can walk down to the park and you don't have to worry about it? Would that even make a difference if it was gated? And that leads to the last question was private security, and it seemed pretty split between yes, no, and maybe. um, hey, Moothness. Yeah, yeah, so we'll if anyone also wants to come on, just had a few thoughts about specifically, I guess, housing, and kind of why I think that Pulte might be involved in wanting to know what it is that we feel about the future of retail and the retail experience, whether we want it just to be purely online, whether we want to go to a store. So I was hoping to um, kind of create a platform to talk about that. So I think also along with a store, right? So I was like, what are all the shared things that you'd want in your neighborhood? Or um, so quite a few people, more than half, so they want a swimming pool and a gym, some sort of game room, tables, right? Like to have like, it's not that each person needs their own. I know a lot of people that have like everything in their own house. They have their own gym, they have their own pool, they have their own, people have their own sun tanning room, like their own wine cellar. My dad designs nice houses, and to see some of the stuff they put in there, it's quite interesting. Um, but I think the reality is like, do we really need all that, or is it okay just to have some sort of common space that we can utilize while when we need it, right? It's like, oh, I'm having a bunch of friends over or whatever, and then you have some bigger space to just use. I know that there's a big grocery store, the Korean market here in Sacramento. They rent out karaoke rooms. So if you and your friends want to, they go, they get some snacks, uh, they buy some food. They have like a food court there, and then you can just rent a room to sing karaoke. So I think that on a more community basis, that there's certain amenities that we would be willing um, to pay for, to have like included. Um, more than half said they want a cafe, right? 40% a restaurant, 50% a grocery store, um, 36% an arcade or esports kind of hub. Only 22% wanted a private school. The biggest one actually was a park. Interesting. 77%. A lake for fishing or boating. 59%. Running trails and biking trails, over 60%. A movie theater, a bar, bowling, dog park, and catio, public hunting land. Right. I mean, those are things, and I think when I don't know that if each housing development kind of advertised different things, then you could actually have neighbors that you have things in common with, rather than just, oh, we happen to have the same budget. um, so I think also part of my thoughts is that I think about all the costs that could be minimized. Like right now, you look at all these different companies and how much they spend on customer acquisition, and it's kind of just a waste, right? That I think that's why Pulte and Larry Chang and Ryan Cohen talk a lot about customer delight, is because that's the way to bypass those sales costs and a lot of other costs as well. Like like it's interesting. There's like a Mexican food restaurant here in Sacramento called La Fiesta. It's really good. And, it's like interesting how I feel when I'm there. Like I don't want to like leave a mess because it's like my favorite place. Whereas if I'm other places, I just kind of don't really care. I mean, it's not like I'm trying to create a mess, but like, um, yeah, and Nike had said energy costs as well. Yeah, I mean, think about like if you go somewhere, do you leave the door open, let the air conditioning just run? Like do you actually care about the places that you go? Because like in a lot of places, it seems to not really matter, right? Like you go. I'm always surprised when I go to a public bathroom and like, wow, this is actually really nice. A lot of them, it's like, wow, this is pretty terrible. Um, and it only takes a few people to ruin it, kind of for everyone. And so I really do wonder what the recipe for maximizing that. If anyone has any opinions. I think about how much, like, what percentage could you save, right? You know, I know a lot of people hate on Blue Apron, but I happen to have done a lot of research on it. Do not currently own any shares, but it was interesting that the main problem was they spend 20% of all their revenue on um, on sales. You know, trying to just get clicks. You know, a lot of stores spend a lot just to try and get people in the door. They're willing to take a loss on selling certain items just to try and get you in the door to try and sell you something else. And that's just kind of weird. Like why? Like because then they're trying to manage how much product there is. It doesn't always match up. Like so, then they have to ship back what they didn't use. Um, Whale-sized snail. I think a sense of community is lacking across the U.S. I'd be totally cool with some shared facilities. You don't have to hang out with your neighbors, but it's good to see them as fellow humans. Yeah, and I mean, I think each time if you had a community, like each time you went to your gym inside your neighborhood, if that is how it's set up, and you saw that it was still nice. You saw that your neighbor just left and it still looks nice. You know, it's like, wow, I can trust my neighbors at least to not trash the place or, steal everything. And I think that I think it will make a difference. And actually, so I do think that much as it seems crazy, um, Elon Musk has been doing a lot of research as far as he had some competition between he has like a SpaceX on the East Coast and the West Coast and at different locations or something. I can't remember exactly, but they were having some competition to see which one was doing better. And I think it's because he might be wanting to invest in, just a common place for everyone that would be the best. I mean, if people really are going to, I mean, with SpaceX, you could take a flight to the other side of the world in like, a matter of minutes. It would be a big deal. I don't imagine it being totally an island, but probably next to the ocean. And I imagine eccentrically having some long tunnel, underwater tunnel that where you can see everything like clear. JH, I don't want a Pulte home. I want a Pulte ranch. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's like, I imagine a city like if Elon Musk was investing and he put the headquarters of Twitter, the headquarters of Tesla, and the Boring Company, and all the companies that he works with or owns, that he'd have enough for like a legit city. And so you could have kind of like the center of town, have a big airport, have place to launch all the rockets, but then also have it be surrounded by country. And so I think that Pulte Elon connection has something to do with that. Um, I know that if someone like Walt Disney, spent a lot of time thinking about the perfect utopia, then I'm sure Elon Musk also thinks about it. And probably, I mean, that might also be why he has, I don't know if he invested in that company or whatever that builds those tiny little houses, because that might be a way that he could, because you'd need to bring in people in order to build a city, right? So it's like you'd have to have like a lot of houses you can move in really quick to start, building, because you wouldn't want it to take forever, right? So if you had those modular houses that um, you can see videos of him um, talking about, you could just bring in a bunch of those for all the people that are building the city to live in while the city's being built. GV says I want a Pulte safe house. Yeah, I mean, I think that's like, but what would that look like? Like, what would it look like? What does even the word safe kind of mean? Safe from what? Um, Safe from pesticides? Safe from terrorists. I mean, like, I think that there's a lot of things and to be safe from. And I think as of right now, we kind of just take what's there. We rent whatever seems available in the area that we want, but that we could get a lot more if we came together and talked about it. And I think that that's one thing I really like about Pulte is the fact that he wants to have that discussion, that he wants to interact with his investors, like know how we feel and know what we like. And I think that with that being kind of the framework, that we could see a pretty um, ideal society, and it could be an example, I guess, for the rest of the country or even the rest of the world on how things should work. Um, Whale sized snail, a Pulte panic room in your Pulte house. A panic. I don't know what you mean by a panic room. Made me think of like one of those the puzzle rooms where you escape rooms. BBQ rockets. Yeah. Hopefully, we will see a BBQ rocket pretty soon. Is this well said, Snell? Is this how we ended with company towns again? Like, I think that I've looked into that. I think that the company town like was a bad idea because I don't think the technology was there, right? That like you would owe money to the company store, and that's terrible, right? So the government you'd have to be able to leave, right? And the idea of debt is not perfect, but I mean, they would still need the government to basically ensure human rights, and yeah. So I think it was that the old company towns, like one, it isolated people from knowing what was normal, from seeking help, whereas we're in an age where there's communication. I mean, one tweet, one whatever, and yeah. But I mean, I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see what a company town looks like. I like Twitter being part of that as far as voting, right? Elon Musk is like, hey, do you guys want me to be CEO? Like, I'll just respect whatever people say. Um, whether there's any other motives behind that, I'm not sure, but at least on the surface, seems encouraging that democracy is something that he's going for. I mean, Disney, that was one problem he had, was he wanted to make the decision for everyone. He didn't want anyone voting, like, ever, and he wouldn't even let there be any sort of artist unions form, and went to kind of great lengths actually to break them up, calling them communists, which was like pretty much a death sentence. I mean, you get lobotomized or whatever, some dark stuff. So transparency and communication and um, democratic factors in there would be. I think it could make the company town actually viable. If anyone else has opinions like for or against that, I'd love to hear them. JH, this X design looks like what they were building in the desert. Yeah, yeah. So that was actually where I got this from. I just photoshopped not this exact picture, but this is the Saudi Arabia, the line project. So, I mean, it seems crazy, but apparently they're building it. And I mean, they have a lot of money, and they kind of need to do something. They have to have. I know that China has been hurting a lot. That the tourism is down, right? Like, I've been learning Chinese for a while now, and I've been wanting to go to China, but haven't been able to, and I know a lot of people are scared to go there now, um, because there's, for whatever reasons. So having something that brings people there, for this would be something to see. Um, it would become a destination, and I mean, if the World Cup was there, that'd be a big deal. Um, Golf course, pesticide heaven. Yeah, I mean but I think even that, like pesticides, like I'm a biochemist, and so it would be possible to not have pesticides, but there'd have to be a lot of things that you'd have to do to kind of safeguard against things getting destroyed. And like one, for example, is coming into California. They have a checkpoint and they check for fruit, and they haven't been doing it lately. I'm not sure why, but I mean, I've come through before, and they caught me lying. They're like, "Do you have any fruit?" And they're like, "We think you do." And open up your trunk, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot I brought some whatever, some apples or something." But it's because that California grows so much of the produce of the world, that I mean of the country, but also actually also. Um, I mean, I think we sell a big portion of the rice to Japan, for example. But anyway, like one bacteria or mold or whatever outbreak could decimate a lot of things, a lot of the food supply. So they do have to be careful about it. Um, I mean, if you had a greenhouse, right, then there'd be ways of doing it. But all those things take investment, and society has to agree to invest it. They have to see that it's a good investment. So I'm all for it, but there's always a cost, right? So, let's see, planning communities have a pretty morbid history. Yeah, no, they definitely do. Which is why I think we haven't seen a lot of new communities happen. But I think that we're starting to see that trend, that people slowly, they're starting to have more structure and more, I guess, curatedness to housing, and that um, that's going to keep progressing. You know, And if we want to have a say in it, then we should probably start talking about it. Otherwise, they're just going to build it and see if we come, right? Seems kind of like a waste. Why not just tell people what you want instead of, just get served what they want to give you? Because I mean, if you're a builder like Pulte Homes, right? Like, you don't really care. I mean, it's like you say, "Hey, I want this." I'm like, "Okay." I mean, my dad draws house plans and he used to build houses as well, and it's like, "Yeah, I really want this." And he's like, "I mean, these are all the reasons why I think it's a bad idea." And they're like, "Yep, I still want it." And it's like, "All right, I'll build it for you." And sometimes later, then be like, "Yeah, actually, we're gonna pay you to like redo it." Okay, but yeah, I mean, um, I hope this discussion leads to someone enjoying their living circumstance better. Not necessarily opposed to it either. We can try new stuff. Yeah. Um, I mean, I really am curious. I mean, I think about like even just like going to the gym, and how much. I mean, the Spanish word flojera comes to mind. That's funny. How much laziness I feel towards it, just because it's like, oh, I have to get in my car if it's like hot. Like my car's hot, and I have to like drive, down. It's not that far away, and say I go swimming, well, then I have to like, be wet getting my car and go back. So I don't know. I mean, the idea of like walking down the street, um, just with a towel and going swimming and just whatever, getting on a scooter or whatever ride, going back like that. That seems amazing to me. Um, Nobody wants a place of worship. That's- but I mean, that could be a thing, right? Like, I mean, all the speaking of things that typically go bad, I mean, bringing religion into um, like a community. See, that's the thing is like, I was talking to someone the other day about diversity, and they're like, "Well, diversity is great," and it's like, I mean, like on its own, it's not. It's just like a tool, I guess you could say. But what's healthy diversity and not healthy diversity, right? Because yeah, I mean, like think about communities, right? Like Waco, Texas. I mean, it would make sense theoretically. Someone with high moral values and a belief in a higher being should be able to form a better community. But I mean, history, you know, you have Jonestown. Um, I mean, I don't know. There's probably a lot. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, having, I know I have a friend that's a rabbi, and I went to Yom Kippur and some other holidays, and they they share a rented space with just a regular spirituality place that you know they just have services on different days and it doesn't overlap, and so they have like all the stuff they need and their own cabinet, and on their day they pull their stuff out and then put it back. And it's kind of weird that you have like a church type thing where it's just used once a week or maybe twice a week, or and yeah, I mean, there's got to be some better way to utilize facilities. And um, yeah, but I mean, like the idea of kibbutz, no, not kibbutz. um Shoot, I forgot what it's called. um but just like the idea of smaller communities, with synergizing to make a better situation has been something over the centuries millennia people have been trying to do. um Will says, Snell, you can worship your local crinkle fries. Oh man, guys, that's hilarious. um yeah. I went to a Shake Shack the other day, so I don't know if there's going to be like a trademark dispute by Shake Shack with crinkle fries. Just if anyone wants to break the news to Kais. um, I didn't order crinkle fries actually when I was there. I just got a burger, but all biochemistry that knows the manga guide to biochemistry. Do Pulte Homes provide the best window technology? Because I have to replace my windows and got quoted 30K. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, not to rip on Sears, but not the guy. I love the guy, but the company, right? So Tendi said she ordered a new washer, but then Sears wouldn't put it in because they said it wasn't like something was wrong with the plumbing, and she lives in actually in a Pulte house that was built in like 2016. It's like, I mean, I don't know what state she lives in, but I mean, for sure, if it's California, I mean, they definitely have standards, and they would not let them not do something with standard. And so it's kind of sad that it's like they voided the warranty unless Tendi paid for them to redo the plumbing. And it's that inefficiency that really grinds me, is that it's like if you're gonna like steal money, just steal money. Why do you actually have to put so much in between it? Like, oh, we're actually gonna tear your wall out. We're actually gonna throw away the old stuff. Like if you're like, hey, look, like we just want an extra $500 to plug in this machine because that's how we've calculated it out. I mean, at least be honest about it instead of trying to make people think like, oh, we need to go through all this work. It's like if you're like paying a hitman, you know, she's like $100 to steal $101 from someone else just so you can have a dollar. Well, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, just go steal the dollar, I guess. Like, it's just like I had someone break into my house when I lived in Bakersfield for med school, and they stole my laptop. And they didn't even take the charger. Like, it's like an $80 charger. Like, so how much are you really going to sell that for? So you have $1,000 laptop, which I literally just bought. It was so annoying. And how much could they possibly have sold it for without the charger? Like, and I see Wall Street doing that, and I see, a lot of the public companies, just that's the status quo is just to do that. And it's like, why is there so much waste? And I mean, I really like I think about that actually kind of often is like I really wonder how much that person sold my laptop for. Uh, because like if you think about it, it's like, well, what do they get? Like $100 or something? It's like, well, I would have just given them a hundred bucks to not steal it, to not have to. I mean, could have saved both of us. Could have saved me $1,000 to pay him just $100 just to not steal it. So, um, so with Windows, yeah. I was actually talking to my dad though about Windows and new Windows and how much like energy it actually saves because I was kind of doing some trying to say what the long term value of getting a new house with better windows was. He says it actually isn't um, doesn't actually save that much, but yeah, 30K. Actually, I'll do it. I don't know where you live. I did some construction for a while. Actually, kind of seriously though, if I as long as it's not roofing, roofing was the worst. I do not want to do that again ever. Um, Sam, thanks for coming in. Thoughts on tiny homes? Yes. So that's another thing, right? I think that these things all go together. I mean, like I don't need one of these big houses, right? I mean, especially it's just me and my wife, like, but yet like I want the amenities of a place like that, right? I'd be fine. We'd be fine with just I actually got a short bus to be able to build that into an RV. Um, once I went all in on Bed Bath and Beyond, I feel like I'll have more money. So I actually stopped work on the short bus because we want to do a transit van instead, and like a newer one, just because it's like if I'm going to invest all that time in actually building out. I mean, I already gutted it on the inside, but if I'm going to put all that effort into it, I might as well have something that doesn't have as many miles on it and um, that'll last a little bit longer. But I think that I don't know. I mean, I think that totally is viable to have a tiny home, especially if you're traveling where you don't plan on being there that long. Like, why pay as much, right? Like, just to heat and cool, um, a house like that size is pretty expensive, right? It's a lot cheaper if it's a tiny house. Um, I mean, I know a lot of people that got some really big houses, and their heating bills are astronomical. Um, but the thing is with a tiny house, and I mean, not to diss on any state, but if you drive from California and then you go into Oregon, there is a very stark difference between California and Oregon because of their building code is different. And so you just see all these janky sort of like add-ons and, just kind of housing structures and everything just right there. And uh, so having a building code is definitely a double-edged sword because I mean, yeah, I mean, people dying in bad construction, earthquake comes, or a storm comes, and your roof falls on you. That's not cool. Um, so I think with the tiny homes, like especially when people are doing it themselves. Not I'm saying you should pay someone else because like who even knows, but I think that it would be harder to regulate tiny homes, which I don't know. I mean, I guess it's kind of like a trailer home, right? You think about the how do trailer homes usually go? I mean, should be a good idea, right? It's cheaper, like, but yeah. Um, just real quick, GV roofing as redhead in the middle of July must be the worst feeling I'd ever imagined. Yes, that is true. Um, I'm not a morning person either, so waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, going on a hot roof, Sacramento, where it's like 112 degrees. I lost feeling in my fingertips, and it's still like not all the way back because they got burnt off. So yeah, roofing was not for me, and just like having just sunscreen going in my eyes, and yeah, not cool. But yeah, tiny homes. Yeah. No, I agree. You said they're most efficient bang for the buck, and that's true. And everyone kind of wants to spend their money different ways. Some people spend it on their car. Some people spend it on just the food they eat. I've noticed cultural differences, which cultures invest in different things. Um, I mean, I learned Spanish when I learned Spanish in Mexico, going to a lot of people's houses and stuff. Like, I mean, they wouldn't have a car, wouldn't be that nice of a place, but yeah, they would eat like kings, which I don't know is more kind of my thing, um, that I don't know. I don't really care that much about my car. I mean, now that I'm gonna mix my car in my house, then yeah, like, but there is definitely a difference. But I think that even if you had a place like this, you'd also have to have like a center of town, an airport and all those things, right? So there always has to be a center, like a downtown, and then outside of town, and hopefully there's ways where it can operate efficiently between both of them. Any more questions? Any thoughts? I think I covered everything I was thinking of. We were, I guess, on the Twitter space. Property taxes. Yeah. Oh yeah. Um, yeah, I think that is kind of an interesting thing because when you pay property taxes, you don't really have a say on where that money goes. And that's also weird. Now that we have blockchain technology, and the idea of DAOs, like to be able to just vote on what you want your money spent on makes sense. I know, for example, in Sacramento, people spent lots of money on these bike trails, you know, these bike highways. But the weird part is that the bikers don't really ever use them. They want to go out into the country on these like tiny roads that don't even have like shoulders on them, which is incredibly dangerous. It seems kind of passively suicidal to me. But I mean, that's the thing is like all this money was spent on those bike roads, but they don't really get used. And Northern California, if you drive around, there's a lot of flags for the state of Jefferson. Caesars is here. The state of Jefferson, right? That all the way back, starting in actually it was the day before Pearl Harbor. The Northern California people like blocked off the highway, and they said you're allowed to pass, to anyone that was driving, but just so you know, you're entering the state of Jefferson. And well, then Pearl Harbor happened just incidentally, and I guess the government came. They're like, "Hey, look, let's not do this right now." But um, the the sentiment was still there that ever since then, that they've wanted to not be part of Southern California, and they finally got on the ballot actually. But what happened was southeastern and middle eastern California both didn't want to be part of California either. They want to be their own states. But then also LA didn't want to be the same as San Francisco. So it ended up being uh, 5 states that they put on the ballot. This was, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, to split California into 5 states. And it didn't pass, obviously, because a lot of people say just because of water rights. A lot of the water comes from Northern California. Like LA has a ton of people, but doesn't have any of their own water. I feel like that's stupid. Like, I I don't know. I say we share water, but like property taxes and where that money goes, um, just there should be more leeway. And I mean, all just taxes in general for each state. Um, but yeah, like what are we paying for when you pay property taxes, right? I mean, part of it for the police, right? So to protect your house. Well, I mean, does everyone feel like their house is protected? Like I had 2 dirt bikes, actually 3 dirt bikes stolen out of my house. Um, I live in what seems like a really safe place out in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, someone snuck into our backyard and stole dirt bikes. They didn't know that I had these custom rims that were like literally there's only 2 sets of them. I was a sponsor at the time, and so a friend that I let him borrow my bike for a race that he did. He called me. He's like, "Hey, your bike's for sale on Craigslist," and so I tried to buy my own bike. So we did get it back, and the guys did go to jail. But um, I don't know. It was, yeah, that was kind of weird though to think that someone, because they were actually like in our house. Like my dad was doing an addition on the house, and so they broke in, and I don't know. It just feels very kind of vulnerable, not cool. Um, Sam said, Sam says, I also checked out some new homes in the area and was surprised the price range from 600 suit homes, like you mentioned. Yeah. I've been like seeing that ad for Texas. I'm wondering if that had to have been before. Actually, I have no idea when that was. I guess it could be 10 years old or something or longer, because I don't know how they would have houses like this for 300,000. But maybe that was why a lot of people from here moved to Texas. I don't know. Um, Thoughts on waiting for the price of these homes to discount after we moon and let the real estate correct before buying to get a further discount? Oh man, um, I see a lot of things that could go weird with the housing market. Let's see. I'll have a picture. So I've been looking at the housing market and trying to see what it's like actually correlated to, which has been very interesting. So to know whether the prices of houses will go up and down, it seems that we've got ourselves in the precarious position of being the inverse of China and Russia. So we're also the inverse of the value of our American dollar. So you can see big swings when, so if say the Russian ruble goes up or the yuan goes up, um, then the value of homes or like Pulte Homes goes down. And either one, any of them can swing it, but especially if all of them are like you see here, the DXY went down. There's a small down for the ruble and a bigger down for the Chinese yuan, and then that was a big up for Pulte Homes. And then you see, um, so then you see the DXY. I mean, it was going up, but like you can see, not as substantially. But because the ruble had just gone up, and because the yuan had just gone up, it was a big down for the housing market and for Pulte Homes. So yeah. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends more on a world kind of scale, like what happens with Taiwan and Ukraine is like gonna influence a lot about the housing market. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, OK Bet suggests there's gonna be quite a catastrophic change when this all happens. I'm not really sure. Um, I'm trying to think of whether they're. I don't know. I mean, I think if you found a house in the right area that you wanted, I don't know that the price would change enough for it to matter. I mean, especially over the length of a loan, like you, especially if the interest rates, I mean, it's like 8%. So somewhere between 6 and 8%. Well, if that's less than your loan, then technically you're making money by just owning the loan. So I don't know that the dip would be. I mean, if you were trying to invest in buying houses for investment, like especially to rent out, then yeah, I would probably wait for a dip. But if it's just somewhere you want to live, I'd wait for the right house in the right area. Sears says, "How out in the middle of nowhere is Mike? Lots of fields, a town or two nearby." Yeah, it takes me a little over 10 minutes to get to a gas station. Um, I have a pond with fish in the backyard with some bass and a dirt bike track, so it's pretty legit. Um, yeah, I mean that's my parents' house. Actually, I'm not living there right now, but that's where I grew up, and yeah, it was legit. I mean, we'd get on quads or dirt bikes and go all the way to, you know, I go miles from the house to the river to, there was a lake nearby with a volleyball court. I mean, it was like miles away. Um, but I mean, that was just kind of normal. I actually had when I was like 15, I had a moped, like an old one where like you cranked it up instead of having like a Kickstarter. It literally had this like crank that you just cranked it several times and it wound up this spring, and then you press it and it just starts it. A little 50cc Honda moped. It was legit. So I'd grab my fishing pole and head over, and there was yeah, it was great. Definitely a lot of benefits living out in the country, but also like for me, someone else brought up being ginger. Yeah, I mean, like I moved to where my parents are now when I was in second grade, and like all the cliques were just like set in stone. And so I don't know if it was just that or that I had red hair and freckles, but people were super mean to me at school. So that kind of sucked. But so I mean, there's pros and cons, right? Like we're in the city, like there's tons of people moving in and out, so maybe those cliques don't form as much. And again, that's why I think that I don't know, there needs to be innovation in what brings us together, especially in like a living situation. Let's see. There are cows around. A lot of people have horses where my parents live, just for fun though. I mean, it's not like they're cowboys or anything. Um, Sam says, "Yep, the lower end of the range after year 4 to 6 years, given we've been in a 12-year bull real estate cycle when it's supposed to be 7 years up, 7 years down." Yeah, I mean, I think like there's just, I mean, maybe. I think that there's just our position in the world as far as the American dollar and everything's been being threatened. Um, and I don't know, things could get shaken up quite a bit, which might change it. I don't know I think that the cycles is probably just a certain amount of years what it takes for someone to think of a new scheme and for everyone to get rugged. Um, so, I mean, it might be like kind of a human psychology thing, but I mean, we're in a technology area, so we'll see. We'll see how that cycle goes. Um, breaking Brickens are freaky. Place feels different for a while. Brickens? I don't actually know what you mean by that. Serious. Um, Sears, your question to Jade was hilarious. Oh yeah, if Sears or anyone wants to get on here, I must have missed the question. Oh, when I asked her, was she single? Yeah. Mortgage means to death. Yeah, I mean the government finds ways. I don't know. I don't want to diss any specific groups, but everyone finds ways to keep control. Um, and the government is the one who has evolved to do it the most effectively. Um, Sam, it is interesting because real estate is one of those assets that retains value, but I get the feeling that the value is going to decrease due to significantly decreasing demand versus supply due to recession. Yeah, so I mean, I think recession is the thing, but also like you just think of like locally, like gentrification, like is your area going up in value or down? Like a lot of people from the Sacramento area, like a lot, moved to Boise specifically. It was like this mass exodus. It was crazy. And so now you go to Boise and there's a lot of like California like things, which I mean, some people there are not thrilled about. Um, but so, I mean, you can kind of just follow this trail. And I mean, when a city breaks and they don't really have the money to, like, people just like leave, and then people leaving now, they don't have the money to fix it. And so they kind of just let it be broken until, actually, I don't know. I mean, you look at Detroit, you look at Chicago, those were huge cities back in the day. And they're definitely not what they once were. At least I don't think. I haven't been there, but from what I glean. Seriously, so sounds peaceful. Yeah, it was great actually. Yeah, I loved. I mean, if everyone wasn't so mean, well, I mean that's. I mean, I did have some good friends that lived up the road and whatnot, in different grades than me. So that was like kind of the problem was their small little school. We had a graduating class of for middle school of like 78 people. Sears, no way.
How's it going, Michael?
It's going great.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, all good. It was really good chatting to you on the spaces earlier today. Jeez, there's so many spaces, they all merge into one.
Yeah. I don't know if we're a cult now. I don't know if it's like official. Like,
I think it's fair enough to call us a cult at this point.
yeah, but I like it.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. That's why like I'm trying to get us to all be on the same page about how our compound's going to look.
It's gonna be the fanciest compound you'll ever see after Moas, I'll tell you that. A
Yeah.
luxury compound, you
No, but
know.
I really think that they're I mean, not that everyone's going to live in the same place, but I mean, I don't know. I think it will actually. I think people will look back in history and be like, "Oh, these cities were built like after Moas."
Yeah, like actually, it's interesting to think. Like you were just talking about people migrating to Boise, Idaho specifically, and it's funny. I hear people. Sometimes I join a space called Leaving America because I'm
Yeah,
always interested to hear about people's like decisions to leave home and where they decide to go. And a lot of it is like politically motivated very often, and I've heard some sort of more conservative people say northern Idaho specifically, and not. I guess is Boise like the middle or kind of south of Idaho,
it's kind of the middle. I mean, yeah, if you want to
near the
build a
lake?
bunker, like and have like literally, I know people that have like a legit bunker, underground bunker,
Whoa,
filled with guns and everything in northern Idaho. Like they don't mess around.
I like it.
Which is
Hey,
actually the state of Jefferson. So California doesn't want to let Northern California go, even though we actually have an unconstitutional number of people in our state. So theoretically, they by law need to actually separate it. And there's only like
like
half a
secede,
million. Yeah, and there's only half a million people in. Wait, is it half a million people? Yeah, in the state, in what's technically a state of Jefferson, which is like north of Sacramento.
right?
Um, so what?
Oh, just right. I'm just hearing it out. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so they're like, "Oh, well, you guys would need like a capital." Like, dude, we'll put it up. Like, like you just say the word, you know. But some people were actually saying that it'd be easiest to just combine it with Idaho. Be like, all right, just let us be part of Idaho then. If
Right.
if you're not going to let us be our own state,
Are
because
they more conservative or something? Or
oh yeah, no, I mean you like it's. But the weird thing is like it's not completely that way because like for example, there's a place called Coloma, and it's like such an interesting mixture of like these like river people, like hippies, and then like staunch conservatives, and like they like coexist in like this beautiful harmony. It's like
that's
so
amazing.
yeah, and it's been that way for a long time, and so it's like I'm sure seems normal to people, but like um yeah, I mean, they'll go to a crafts fair and the hippies are out selling their stuff and the rich people, the rich conservatives are like buying it and like by like it's
A
it's not even
symbiotic
yeah,
relationship.
it's like it's truly symbiotic. And so it's just like I think each kind of place has a specific culture. And I don't know, I think like smaller groups, it's just kind of better to manage, right? Rather than trying to make a one size fits all for an entire state. I mean, especially like
Yeah.
California size.
Absolutely. I mean, California is massive. I mean, I'm blown away by the GDP, and I've heard many people say that the way California goes, America goes, right? I'm not
Yeah.
sure how true that is, but it's a saying,
Yeah,
apparently.
I didn't realize, because I mean, I was actually born in another state, but um, I don't want to say just because I mean, I don't know, I don't want to totally
Don't
dox
dox
myself
yourself.
like
I was
this.
worried about even asking you how far out in the country you lived,
Yeah,
the
but
countryside.
like, um, let's see. So, what was I gonna say? Oh, but just growing up in California, I didn't realize what was like normal and like what wasn't, you know? Like,
Right.
I mean, I remember when I went to Philadelphia to take one of my boards exams. And I was like, "Oh man, I just like my stomach, I was feeling anxious." I was like, "I just need a protein shake," right? And so I like could not. I'm literally in Philadelphia, like the city. I could not find a grocery store. I was like, "Do they have
What?
a supermarket?" And it was like these like hole in the wall places. And I'm like, wow, is a supermarket like a novel concept? Like, does not everyone have that? Like, and
Um,
that was weird. I mean, I went to 5 different like I went there. They had like I went to like 4 hole in the wall like kind of like convenience stores, and then I went to like some like Asian marketplace. None like only one like one of the hole in the wall place. Like I was like, it's a protein shake, and he's like, "Ah, I just don't know what you're talking about." And he's like, this, and he points to. I was like, oh yes, there we go. Like, but I mean, I spent hours. Like
it's
all
so
I wanted.
Sacramento is just devoid of supermarkets,
No, no, no.
apparently.
This was Philadelphia.
Oh,
So
Philadelphia.
I'm
Sorry,
I'm
sorry.
used to growing up in Sacramento where it's like we have really nice grocery stores. I had no idea like how bougie they are. I mean,
Right. So this is in the like the heart of Philadelphia. Like you're
yeah, I mean, I'm not from there. I flew in and then I was, um, you know, I mean, I was by where the testing center was. I'm assuming that's like kind of in the
pretty
middle of
central.
town-ish. Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
central. So, and I didn't have a car. I just, rented an Airbnb and whatnot. But like, it was like really weird to just see that difference. Even going to Atlanta recently, I was there and like, I don't know, it's just like even just like one thing I didn't realize is I'm a fruit snob.
Yeah.
Like I was in another state and like I was like, hey, like, it's like someone like called someone, I was like, hey, like, do you know where you guys get fruit? And he's like, oh yeah, the grocery store. And I was like,
Get out
I'm
of here,
there.
you fruit snob. You goddamn. What do you fancy bananas and apples and shit?
But,
What
like,
do you
really like, here, like, you just, like, they grow it all, like, so, like, you'll get, like, literally fresh picked strawberries, fresh picked whatever you want, in
Awesome.
Sacramento Valley, and so it's like you go to pretty much any grocery store, you're not gonna see all, like, these bruised peaches and stuff, like, they weren't, they didn't
Yeah.
like, you can use, like, the gas called ethylene to, like, um force fruit to ripen,
Two.
right? That
Ah, yeah.
So they ship it in from like Brazil, like mangoes and stuff, and then they'll just like put that gas in there. But the gas doesn't distribute evenly because it's a gas, and that's why you get like these like green spots, but then yellow and all that.
I never knew
And
that. I knew they put something in the containers, but I
and
didn't
that's
know
why
it
you
was
can say you have something that's not ripe, you could just put it in a bag or put it next, like with or next to bananas.
other
Bananas
bananas.
excrete
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of that ethylene gas. Um,
Right. So that's the gas. Like, so that's not even natural to bananas. That's literally what they picked up on the way over.
Well, no, I mean, all fruits emit the gas, but they only emit it when they're gonna be ripe, actually. It's
Oh,
just like
okay.
yeah, so but you can artificially give it early.
Right.
So
Right.
if you try to ship ripened fruit, like, it's a lot more difficult to keep it good than to ship it green and then just artificially ripen it.
Well, just like you were talking about, the kind of, I guess it's kind of like uh, real food poverty in like American cities. Like when
Yeah,
I visited LA, I couldn't believe how difficult it was to find like a grocery store nearby, and um, I just ended up like ordering food all the time and going to
yeah.
restaurants, and even then the food was kind of rough. Like my my uh, my bougie European taste was completely destroyed. I was just like, I just became a full on American eating like hamburgers every day. And but I liked
That's
it.
good. It's expensive to, like, have a car. Like, you think about how much you have to pay for insurance, how much you have to pay for the car, and the gas, and then like in somewhere like LA to park it, they're looking at 25 bucks like a day, like
Yeah.
anywhere you're
Oh,
parking it.
I was walking. Okay. Right. I was just crashing on a friend's couch, and like, he was like trying to break into the uh, I guess screenwriting industry. And
Yeah.
he's like, check out LA, and I was like, all right, cool. And I came over, and it was a really wild experience. I mean, the streets were so wide, like the pavements,
Mhm.
and and I guess there was a couple homeless people around, but they were quite, the ones near us were like really entrepreneurial. Like I don't know if they stole a bunch of bikes, but they were like fixing up bikes and stuff. They basically like over the like 3 weeks I'd stay there, they had like built an entire. It was almost like a bike shop where they were, they
Yeah.
were just fixing them all and probably selling them too. And then they was just one day they were all gone, but. Yeah, it was a really interesting place. The first thing I got was the Coca Cola, like the original Coca Cola from Mexico, with the sugar
Yeah.
cane.
Oh,
It
yeah, that's
was
good stuff.
sweet. Yeah, I got that in a. I keep forgetting you. I say garage. You, you guys say truck stop or something, or
Oh, wait,
I,
then you're talking about a truck stop.
yeah. Well, no. What do
I
you
thought
what
you
do you
just
call it?
were pronouncing garage weird.
Garage. Oh yeah, we say garage, but
Because
yeah,
that's garage.
garage.
That sounds cool. I'll say
I,
that. Yeah.
I'm thinking of the I'm thinking of that Simpsons thing. It's like it's called a garage. What Mo? He's
Oh,
like, yeah, it's a car hold. It's like a garage. It's a car hold. But yeah, uh, it was an interesting place. I didn't realize that everyone just drove. Like, and then I remember when I visited New York.
yeah.
Um, I I was with my girlfriend at the time, and she was like, "Well, how are you gonna get to the street?" I was like, "I'll just get the bus." And she's like, "What?" She thought, because I didn't realize everyone thinks that like just you don't get the public transport, or at least the buses. It's just something about buses to Americans, like they don't like it. It's
Well,
for
it's
it's for
terrifying.
crazies.
It
you know?
is like it's sad that like it is terrifying. Like I do not want to take public transport, I mean,
Right.
and that's sad. It's sad that like just traveling is so expensive. Like just living is so expensive and I just think that there's like a lot of room for innovation to make that not so bad. I mean, my wife like um going from, you know, anyway, the other day like was like, "Oh, maybe the best thing is we'll just take the Greyhound. That'll just be the easiest way, save, a couple $100."
Yeah.
And it was like terrifying. Like, a lot of people
Whoa.
got free vouchers to go on there and she like
I've heard
act,
stories about greyhounds.
yeah.
I think I heard about a guy getting like decapitated or something, and
I'm
everybody running outside and barring the doors, and then he just sat there with the person's head looking out at them like and then until the police arrived.
yeah. I mean,
It's
there's
probably not your average Greyhound trip,
well,
but
I mean, I like I I did my clinical rotations in Bakersfield and there is a meth epidemic there. Like it's really bad and
this is California.
I mean, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's it's north of LA and yeah, I mean, I saw lots of stuff that was it's just I think it's sad that people have so much potential and don't have the right vehicle to get that potential in the right direction. And I
hmm,
just think that like the top 1%, the top 10%, they just kind of exploit that and just they'd rather keep everyone dumb. But it's like I just think if everyone was smarter and like we could just all like the synergy would just be incredible, you know. Like I've asked a
yeah,
lot of people this question. Like it's like if you could press a button and everyone in the world suddenly became smarter than you, smarter and nicer than you, like would you press it?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, me too. I mean, that's why like we get along. I'm sure because like I've had a lot of people say no. They're like, I wouldn't want to be the dumbest or whatever. It's like you're telling me like I could make this world a great place, and if everyone was more capable than me, that'd be amazing.
yeah. Well, I mean, look, if sometimes I just want to press a button to become dumber than I already am, because I'm like, because it's bliss, right? So, you overthink, you become neurotic,
That's
and
true.
it's and there's not a lot. I know people who become obsessed with IQ and appearing smart, and they're never that fun, to
Yeah,
be around, you know, and I there's all types of intelligence. I prefer people who are more emotionally intelligent and kind of more silly or like willing to joke around. Like I don't need to be surrounded by goddamn rocket scientists the whole time. Like like yeah, I'd prefer, to know all sorts of people. Although, okay, Beth is a incredibly smart guy. Yeah, I'd prefer to have more people like him in my life. But yeah, I'm okay with all sorts of people. I think everyone's got something different to offer. Different. Everybody's got value and worth
And
in
we just
various
need
ways.
a platform to bring us together, right? To be able to have common goals and to synergize with each other because it's really cool. That's something I've liked about this community is that like everyone has their special talents, right? Like I'm not a finance person, not even a legal expert. I mean, I have some friends who are lawyers, but like I don't know, like it's like, oh, but I have time to read dockets or whatever and look up words and just imagine like what maybe the bigger picture might be. And
Yeah.
so having people who have a background in accounting or a background in you know um, investigative, financial crimes or whatever.
It's so good. It's so good to have him on our side. But you're dead right. Like this whole gathering of very unique individuals, and everybody, like, it's great to see people's like talents shine, and that they get rewarded for that with praise and appreciation. I like sometimes you wonder like what do you add, or I don't know. I mean, I found that you've added so much already, and
Thanks.
especially like your discovery of the code in that crazy person's docket. I couldn't believe it. And yeah, and you add such perspective. I think it's so funny because like the day you arrived, you appeared quite like just normal, just chill. People were wondering where you were shill, where you were planned. Because you were just sitting there, kind of contented, and then over time, your position became quite well deserved,
Oh,
and
thank you.
yeah, yeah,
I
it's
mean,
great. It's great to see.
it still feels like imposter syndrome just because like I like look back, I'm like, where the crap was I during GameStop squeeze? Like, like how did I didn't even hear anything about it. Like I'm like, I mean, I
Ah,
guess I was working like 3 jobs at that time, but
okay, you can forgive yourself for that one.
still like I'm like, how the like do I not have any good friends that'd be like, hey bro, like just put $100 on this real quick, I
Yeah,
don't know. Like I feel
I
kind of
a
let down.
friend told me, but I think he just wanted me because he knew I was kind of, I don't know, I was feeling kind of nuts at the time. I was just doing a bunch of kind of wild shit, and he was just like, "Hey, look at this GameStop thing. What are you gonna throw money into that?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" I just threw a bunch of money into it, and that was crazy. That was crazy. But I always wonder, yeah, how people got into it, because I suppose, did you feel that the media were talking about it very much, or at
I mean,
all?
I literally the first time I even like heard about it was a friend of mine, a good friend of mine was he had like a classmate or something, and the classmate was hodling and he's like, bro, dude, you should take profits. Like you should really, and he's like, no, the squeeze, man. He's like, no, dude, your 4 grand just turned into like 15 grand or whatever it was. I don't know when he got in or whatever. You should just sell. And then he's like, and he just didn't sell. And
Yeah, I made the same mistake
I met
during the squeeze. I
really,
didn't sell very much. Yeah, yeah. I thought it was. I mean, look, the way I look at it, I go, Thomas Peter Fee, or whatever his name is, of the CEO of IBKR. Like, he literally said it was going into the thousands, and it
yeah,
was, but we were robbed.
yeah,
So, you know, I don't blame myself for you know going into a play that was mathematically sound,
yeah,
um, but we were rugged,
yeah,
and this time there's a whole lot more of us, so I'm not too afraid. I'm looking forward to a decentralized market. I'm holding a fuckload of different bags. I mean, at this point, I'm all over the basket. So, there's no. I feel like they're much more reassured, and we are all more reassured. I mean, at this point, we're well able to read dockets and pick apart the information ourselves, even if we're not, bankruptcy lawyers or accountants or that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So, although it helps to have them,
it does.
just defer to them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I'm very confident in what we're doing. You know, I'm waiting for the tipping point where everything becomes overt, right? Because it's right now it's just very, we are technically in a strange kind of cultish place where we all understand what's going on, right? Like it's factual, but the world outside has absolutely no idea, and you try to explain it, and you're looked at like you have two heads. That people are absolutely different.
I've gotten
Yeah.
better at explaining it. I think that people just they kind of just take they have their so like there's a French psychologist, Lacan, and
Oh yeah.
he says there's like the big other, and that we just have like this like authority figure, and we just kind of just we give up our willpower to them, and like their voice is like might as well be God. And I think everyone has that source, whether it's like their specific news channel or whatever it is, and they just kind of gobble it up. And even if it's like simple stuff, it's like, oh, they sold the IP, like you can't have a business without a name. Like that's like one sentence. You can't have a business without a name. Like, and that's just all that like fits in their head. And it's like, no, like let's think about like the evolution of retail and like is the model that Amazon's doing sustainable? No, it's clearly not.
No,
Um,
I mean
like,
even their turnover is ridiculous in terms of people.
but they want to. They want to do it that way because they don't want
Oh
to have to
yeah.
give people raises and they want to just wear someone out. And it's like that's not sustainable. Like
No.
like nothing about their model is sustainable, and yet everyone just thinks because they can press in one click and it ships to their house that like it's the future, and it's just not. I think a lot of things are changing, and I don't know. I mean, you've heard, I guess, all of my theses, but um,
Well, I think it's interesting that even Bezos himself admits that Amazon will fall one day. I mean, that was an article that came out recently.
oh really?
Yeah, he said it to his own team on Amazon. This stuff isn't going to last. But he also said he's going to try and make it last as long as he can. And it makes me wonder how, what is Amazon almost like? In terms of the retail side, is it almost like a startup where they're just running on empty the entire time? I mean, maybe they're running on debt. I don't know. I have to believe that it's a profitable endeavor, but at the same time, everybody says the money comes from the server, the cloud
But
side
it,
of
it
the
comes
business.
from the cloud because the people use it to sell their stuff, but they don't make money on selling the stuff. So like I think that a lot of the companies they're kind of going through, all these like the whole world. So it's like, okay, one company tries to make it, they don't make money, they do sell things for 2 or 3 years, they don't make money, they go bankrupt, right? And then just another company just pops up and then tries to do it. And so they're relying on this reemergence of these like companies that don't are kind of just a short term thing. And
Oh yeah, like Amazon FBA. Do you ever meet those kind of? There's kind of like
I don't know
tech
what FBI stands
bro.
for.
So it's a fulfillment by Amazon or something like that, and it's basically people start up their own business. They source a product from China,
Oh
and
yeah.
they find a niche, they list it on Amazon, and then they just when they get a buy, they ship kind of directly from whatever factory in China has agreed to hold their stuff, or else you ship a bunch of stuff to an Amazon warehouse. Amazon charges you, quite a lot for to hold the stuff, and then you hope you sell it right fast enough that you make a profit in between. And it's been a huge like niche of it's the kind of people like I'm not saying it's a bad book, but the 4 hour work week,
Hmm.
that's what popularized it. It was kind of it's kind of it's a sort of e-commerce, but for bros or something. I hate the term bros, but it's got a broish culture around it where it's like, bro, just open a couple Shopify stores and sell fucking steak knives, and it works. It works, and it worked quite well for a while, but then it became saturated, and then Amazon started cutting into the best sellers of the category. Just they introduced Amazon Basics,
Yeah.
undercut everyone because they have the data to show what's being sold, what's winning in every category, and then they just introduce their own, and I think they're getting sued for that, and yeah, they're getting sued for a lot of stuff. Teddy couldn't come at
Yeah,
a
I mean,
better
there's
time.
like reasons why antitrust laws exist is because a monopoly is really, really bad, and we've seen it happen countless times throughout history.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen an effective monopoly without a true like takeover. What we've seen is like a monopoly in a way that it's Wall Street's longs have grown and Wall Street's shorts have been destroyed.
Yeah.
So like systematically. So yeah, I find that very interesting. Like that they're shaping the retail landscape to as a as a bet. Like like and I'm really looking forward to Amazon getting the stock absolutely tanking when we break the basket. And Walmart too. Um, you know, it's
I
gonna
mean,
be sweet.
I see the tactic as like an alligator pulls something under the water. Like an alligator has to breathe too, but
Right.
their goal is to drown the other thing before, you know, um, because if something else just takes one breath um, of water and then it's just like up now they're kind of toast, their lungs fill up with water, and so that breath that they can hold is access to loans and this kind of liquidity, and the Amazon kind of came and beat all of the retailers by zero interest loans from the government. Like, hey, we're going to build this infrastructure, and the government really care. They just care about American interests, right? Amazon taking off was like kind of a big deal for the whole world, and so the U.S. didn't really care who was leading this like innovation and this technology and this infrastructure being built. As long as it was supporting America, they just like cool. So here's all these loans, and they gave the free loans, and it stimulated the economy because it's like, oh, we're innovating and things are getting better. We're the world leaders, but it wasn't sustainable. And I mean, even just the number of returns, like how they manage returns and everything. Like I'm like, how like I don't know, it just like it just blows my mind. And to know that every time you return something, like say, you know, say you get like like my wife had a graduation recently, and so she gets like 3 dresses from Amazon, right? And then just like returns, the 2 that she's not going to use, but she has to try them on, right? Like, and it's just I don't know how it's sustainable, and
Well, they get 30% returns for like for their entire you know business. So 3 in 10 purchases are returned, and when it comes to physical retail, it's only 10%. So 1 in 10 items are returned. That's why Amazon was trying to expand into brick and mortar retail, and I believe the shorting was probably preparing for that sort of massive sort of takeover of the physical space. But it's very, yeah, you're right. It's very interesting. And sometimes they handle the returns like they just say, "Oh, forget it." If it's under a certain price, they don't care.
because they
'Cause
just sell the rent, right? So
yeah,
it happens to the supplier is who ends up footing the bill, and it's like, well, then the suppliers are like, well, I'm losing money now. I mean, I had a vending machine business, and it's like, man, it was like uh, frustrating. It's like, you know, part of it breaks, and it's like, all right, well, that's gonna cost me $400. Like,
shit.
how many freaking sodas am I gonna have to sell to make back $400 plus the gas to go get it, plus the time to install it? And
So it was soda vending machines, or anything else, or just soda?
I mean, I had snacks, and I preferred the like I bought new machines that were like the ones at like Costco or Sam's that are like the glass front ones. So I got several of those, but then I had them in schools, and I realized that like if you pull on the door,
Kids just
right when
steal
they're
them, right?
well, you can't really steal anything, but if you pull on the door right when it's going to deliver your drink, it will knock it out of the cup, and then it can go down in the bottom and block the arm from being able to go back to its home position.
Right.
And kids are just like would just pull on it, and it's just like, dude, just chill. It's gonna open. Like obviously, if
They're
you grab the
animals.
drink, it's probably also gonna deliver the drink.
Would you go around to the schools and pitch them, or would you like go to different businesses, like as an independent business owner, and
My
say,
a friend, one of my friends, like he got the business, but he's retired, and I just got done with med school, and he's like, hey, do you want to like fill these vending machines? And he got it just kind of, I don't know, just because like all his buddies from work, were talking about it, and so he's like, I'm just gonna go do it, like, so he just did it. But then like
"That's awesome."
he was retired, and it was like, yeah, actually, I really don't want to work that much on it. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I can just lease it from you, because I'm like, I don't have any capital. And
Yeah,
so I already had locations then. I tried to get some more, but I don't know. I got a lot of I talked to a lot of people about that were like trying to get into vending, and I'm like, I probably wouldn't do this.
yeah. It's a funny kind of business. It's one of those kind of businesses where you think this has got to be pretty good, and then it gets complicated as the more you get into it, right?
Because people can't do. They're like, oh, the machine operates itself. It's like, yeah, hopefully that'd be great if it did. Um, but like, say you have snacks, right? Well, they expire.
Oh yeah,
So they also make it to where, so if you wanted to buy chips, right, for example, you either A, have to go to Sam's Club, get just a prepackaged one, guarantee they're not putting it in the ratios that people are eating in. Like they literally the worst ratios. Like I like who actually likes Cheetos? Like that
I don't
much where
know.
they're actually gonna pay real money for Cheetos. Like I don't know anyone, right? So, but yet they'll have like literally twice as many Cheetos as any other thing in the package. And they do it on purpose with everything that you can buy in bulk that you possibly would resell.
Well, I've
And
only heard like that gamers like Cheetos or something like that. It's
yeah, like
always
spicy
used in a
Cheetos.
derogatory form or something like that.
It's also
But
derogatory, but I mean, like when that started was probably before other stuff came out. But I mean, it's not that no one eats it, but like definitely not double. Like they would put like whatever everyone wanted, there'd be like 4 bags or 3 bags, and there's like 16 of like
of whatever
of
they
Cheetos. I'm
didn't
like,
want.
what?
Yeah,
Why? And
that's hilarious.
so like that means that so if you go to a wholesaler, right, to buy it, well, then the chips come in a box of 60. Okay, yeah, everyone's going to want this chip, but 60 of them by the time they expire. So that means, and that's something that I think a lot of people understand is the economy of scale. Like you only would make money if you had enough machines and enough people buying to be able to actually move through your product before it expires. Because like how many, like say you have a bag of chips, and okay, let's say I'm gonna no exact numbers. All right, so 60 cents, and well, yeah, 65 cents, and you're gonna, let's say 65 cents per bag, and you're gonna sell it for $1.50. Okay,
Yeah.
but you also have to you have to like think about the gas to get there, and the
Oh yeah.
time to fill it. Well, what percentage of like when you buy chips are they actually broken, like popped? It's actually a
Oh, the
lot.
bags popped. Really?
Yeah, like when you actually stick them in the machines, and so you actually know, like I'd have, the big boxes of 60 that I get from the wholesaler, and I'd have like 20 of them popped. It's like, are you freaking kidding me?
Shit.
Like, how am I supposed to make any money? Like, and it's like, oh, well, you can then like, it's just because the person on the forklift or whatever at some point in the chain, like just like pushed
Crush
it
them
into
or something.
something, and it has compressed it, and then just pops like literally half the bags. So it's like, well, then I have to take time out to then, bring back those empty bags or take pictures of them to try and get money for them.
I thought you'd eat them all.
I mean, I did a lot,
Come
but
on,
they're also super stale, and it's
free
like,
chips. No, sorry.
so like I think like people don't realize this, like how many of those busted chips, or if they go stale and then no one wants to buy them, do you have to like, it ends up just being kind of difficult, to make money. So drinks would be better because they don't go out, and they don't pop. I mean, when you're, as much as the chips do.
So you moved
Uh,
into drinks,
well, you have to do both. People
right?
want
Right.
both, and but then it's like I was in school, and it's like, all right, it has to be sugar free.
Oh
So
God.
they have a double standard, right? The kids can't have any of the good stuff, but like, if I even put one item that was like sugar free in the teachers' lounge, it's just like freak out. I'm like we
The
don't want any of
teachers
that
all
healthy
going
crap.
for the sugar?
Yeah, I'm like, so why like they'd freak out if I put sugar in the students' machines, but if I put sugar free in their machines, they'd freak out. It's like that seems like
Oh,
I
damn
feel I actually
hypocrites.
might write a bill, which reminds me to say like that you shouldn't impose anything that you wouldn't do yourself, right? So in any government building, if you want to like have kids not allowed to have caffeine, sugar, you know if you're going to put that on them, all right, White House, every Capitol building, every teacher's lounge, none of that can have any sugar or caffeine.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Where do you know about like vending machines in these government buildings? Because the European, I know for a fact that the European, I guess it's the Parliament, right, in Brussels,
Yeah.
they have uh, they have vending machines, and the price is so cheap. Like if you're talking 150 for a bottle of Coke, it's 50 cents, right? I'm wondering
Hmm.
who the hell runs that? Are they subsidized?
Oh
Like what's
yeah,
going
I
on?
mean, well, in Europe, of course they are subsidized, but I mean,
Well, I
I
don't
would
know. Like
do
these
that.
these fancy European, like they got all the money they want. These legislators, these sort of faceless bureaucrats, and they get 50-cent cokes on top of it. God damn.
that's that's gonna be a quote someday, and they get 50-cent cokes on top of it. Goddamn.
No, but it's
So,
ridiculous. Like,
for
do they
example,
subsidize them or in
well,
these
so
government buildings?
there's multiple ways. Like that's the thing. Is like you got to follow the money, right? Like, and that stands
I
out
love
to
how
you.
we're getting to the bottom of this. Follow
You're
the
like a
money at the
50-cent
vending machines.
Coke, like 50-cent Coke conspiracy, right? So how much would I put mine for the teachers' lounge? The same, 50 cents, right? Why?
No, charge those fuckers out the ass.
No, because like they're the ones that like I have to make them happy so that I can keep my machines in the other. So I have to make money off the backs of the children, and
Okay,
so
that's
I
the
get.
quote.
Oh, dang, this is live. But so good. Only cool people are gonna watch it. So,
The
but
hedge funds are gonna get you for that one.
but that was like that's actually one of the reasons I got out. Was not only was it a headache, but like it just crossed so many ethical boundaries where I'm like, here I'm giving, like I was trying my best. Like if like all the other schools would just put the standard school crap in there, which like, you have all these kids and like they're anxious. There's like, I mean, it's like worse than prison conditions at schools in a lot of ways. And then they can't even buy a snack if they want to eat a snack. It's just ridiculous. It's like, no, you can have these like whole grain, stale freaking Pop Tarts that aren't even like they like who even eats a Pop Tart like if it's not like in a toaster, right? Like, I mean, that's
Yeah.
already like the teacher's lounge has a toaster at least, or they if they wanted to toast it, but and so they have no say in what's in there. So I tried really hard to get things that actually like were legal, but that they would actually like. But it was like so difficult, and so took me more time to try and order it. You can't like even just try and order things in bulk was really difficult. And
Right. I love how you like you're such a good guy, Michael, that this vending machine issue became a real ethical quandary for you, and you just had to get out of the business. It's amazing, but yeah, no, I hear you. That's hilarious. I mean, there's so many different variables that it does sound like an absolute headache. Um, that's but it's hilarious. Like
and here
the issues.
I'm buying like freaking like I get like the Starbucks like glass things, and I go into the office and I give it to all the administrators and whatnot, and it's like because I know who has the power to either kick me out or let me stay. And so here I'm like, do I put Disneyland prices on these items, or do I try to like give them the best bang for their buck?
Right.
And
Like, were you going to the principal of the high school or whatever and being like,
yeah.
"Hey, here's a few Cheetos on the side.
Oh,
Here's a
no,
free
here's
Coke."
whatever you want. Oh, here's a whole box of freaking Snickers or whatever the crap you want.
Oh
Like
shit. What
because
were those meetings like? Was it just like you just accidentally left them by the door? Hey,
no, I just tell them like, hey, here's, I put a note like, thanks for,
yeah,
uh,
taking my business. Yeah,
yeah. It
yeah.
just felt so like I actually did Photoshop when I was in high school, and the lady I did Photoshop for, well, because I was just getting my senior portraits done, and I was like, could I like, do you need anyone to do Photoshop? Like, if I like offer, if I just could I work for free for you for like a couple weeks and see if I could be useful? And she's like, sure. I'm not gonna say no to free
Yeah,
work, right?
yeah.
And after the first day, when she realized I was way better at Photoshop than her, she's like, "Yeah, you're hired."
Yes.
But like, it was really weird because then her sales went from like $400 or $700 per senior to like $2,700 per senior.
Damn.
So she would have this salesperson. Everyone that came in felt like a rock star, and then I'd make them look like a rock star.
Yeah, you
Um,
were you were putting like you were giving them artificial abs and shit, and
Oh, yeah, whatever they wanted, like, the sky's the limit, and this was, like, back in the day too. This was back in, like, 2006, right? So,
oh
like,
yeah, back then, like if you knew Photoshop, you were golden.
yeah, and then she wasn't paying me. She was paying me $10 an hour, right? And then when I leave, I was like, "Hey, like, I'm heading out to college," like, and she's like, I was like, "Could I get a raise?" And she's like, "All right, I'll pay you $12 an hour if you train these 2 people. If you find someone to take your job and then train, this other person." So I trained both of them, and then she goes on to pay both of them $20 an hour
Oh my god,
and the full amount of hours that I did. And so I was like, I knew that I was worth $40 an hour, but she was only paying me $10 an hour.
pay me what I'm worth.
But that's the thing is like, y- like the free market is just, it's merciless.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's just so sad that it's like, here, I added a lot of value. I completely changed. I mean, like, geez, like how much money she made just in the few years I was there was like insane. And, um, and I came back from college and it was like, hey, like I actually need to make some money. And it was like, anyway, like she's like, oh, we'll be partners. Like when I left, and then it was like came back, it's like, hey, I need a job, and it's like, I'll give you $12 an hour. It's like,
Why? Come on. Oh my god, that's messed up, man.
but like
That's
that's the
messed
thing
up.
is like like we're in this dog eat dog world, and
Yeah,
being nice is we
doesn't
have to
get
be
you
nice
anywhere.
and smart.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes I wonder how Ryan Cohen does nice and great, you know, in such a dog eat dog world. Like it's so hard to keep your values right and your ethics. Um, and
yeah, and I
yeah.
don't know what compromises that each person has to make. Um, I have no idea. I mean, like the ethical questions as far as like the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right?
Hmm.
Like, would you be willing to, let's say like platinum, is like, hey, we're gonna help you like get Sears back on. It's
I
like,
don't know. I don't know if I could do it, man.
and it's like, I'll bring them a whole army of apes just so you have to like follow my lead, and it's like,
No, never.
oh, I'll let my
It
investment
would kill
die.
me. Yeah, yeah,
But like, but that's a real question though. Like who are we reaching out to as far as like who's out there willing to help? Like, you look at like each like throughout history, right? They get mercenary armies, right? These are
yeah,
people that's their profession is they kill people.
yeah.
And
I've.
yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, I just like I think that happens at some like the rubber hits the road at some point, and it creates heat. It destroys things when when that work actually get happens, like in a
Hmm.
physics sense.
Yeah, I thought it was like I mean the people that are on our side in this play, they've dealt with very shady like boards of directors. Like I mean, I find it amazing how Ryan just goes straight after Mark Triton. I mean, literally chases him into Nordstrom, and you know, one of the things that Pulte said in the PV show that I thought was really interesting, that he described like the boardroom as a prison. You know, like these battles are taking place, and you have to have sort of a cordial way about you on the surface, but really, I mean, look at what's happening behind the scenes with the guy running Pulte Group or Pulte Homes, like literally paying to have Pulte's name slandered and all that's like it. That's the dog eat dog. But I'm sure on the surface at the board meetings, you know, it's got you have to have some sort of upstanding, you know, kind of way. You can't just like you know just go you're a scumbag. You know how dare you, you know. It's it does have to be above board, but there's so much underhanded stuff going on. Um, it's really vicious, and of course, then you have like the amount of sociopaths at that level in business. Like it's statistically quite high, so you're dealing with very underhanded individuals like that will smile in your
Because
face
it
and then stab you
works.
in the back.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
this evolution, natural selection, like selects for what works, right? And scaring people works, right? Like it's sad when you follow the money and you find out that the best investment is to pay money to slander someone else. I mean, actually looking
yeah.
on a big scale, like I have actually, I don't even know if I want to say, but like,
You don't have to say. Yeah.
yeah, because I want to visit certain countries, but like there's we'll just say two specific countries. um and they go back and forth and slander each other, and you can literally see their whole economy and the value of their currency like devalue by how effective their narrative is that they slander. And so it's like it's so sad that instead of building value, where the people like see that the main thing is just to spin a narrative. They're going to invest all their resources in the spin and not in the actual construction of a better world.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
terrifying.
absolutely. Yeah, like I mean, not to get into politics, but the amount being sent to Ukraine, and then just say the amount given to Hawaii for the people to rebuild. I think it was like 1.8 million or something like that, or a very small amount, and then like 40 billion, you know, in a week or something, to Ukraine. And yeah, I mean that's I mean, talk about having your priorities upside down.
But like, do you
Um,
think about like so? Man, I
well,
part of
we
me
don't have to
doesn't
go into it. We
want
don't
to.
have
I
to
mean,
go into
but it's just like everything has a cost, and
it.
that
Mhm.
like what would happen if I mean, so just like right now, Russia's like, well, NATO is expanding. Well,
Yeah,
if it turned like if if Russia was able to expand the Soviet Union, how far would they expand it? Would they be like, oh, we've taken enough. Okay, we're good.
yeah,
History has shown that like no one apparently is willing to say enough because I think that on like a biological level, there's no feeling of enoughness. That all we have a feeling of is more or less. And yet
yeah.
like the balance of life happens when we actually experience enough.
Hmm. Well, you know, I don't expect Putin to be a Buddhist or anything, but
The middle way.
yeah, yeah, the middle way.
Because it doesn't work. Carl Jung says that we elect our collective shadow. Like we elect
Yeah,
the person that's willing to do the dirty work that none of us want to do. And
absolutely.
like until we admit that there's dirty work that needs to be done, that we're just going to elect someone else that's going to be crazy enough to do what we don't even want to talk about doing.
Yeah,
But like we
yeah,
have to talk about that. And that's like kind of like the whole point that like I was thinking about this idea of utopia and like these planned communities is that like we have to make progress. And the way society is doing it is just not working. Like you had a whole meltdown in France, right? And it was like a lot of ethical questions. It was like, well, why didn't this why couldn't this boy have a driver's license? Right? I mean,
Mm,
it's a question, right? Like,
yeah,
how is he supposed to work without a driver's license? Okay. But also, how is society supposed to work if he's just going to try and drive past the cops and, like, all that stuff? So it's like, it's a difficult question. And since no one wants to address it, then the collective shadow comes out, and then we just pick a side, which part of the collective shadow we
yeah.
like.
We start burning down the Victor Hugo library, and I don't know, like trashing 700-year-old mahogany French fucking doors. I don't know.
But
Yeah,
man, what do you
it's
do with the dog when you hit it? And it's like, yeah, do you want to do what you just did again? No, I'm going to hit you. Okay.
yeah. I see, and then there's parts of that whole French thing is really bizarre to me because you know, I mean, they have this like amazing history of like just being like liberating themselves from political oppression. They literally bring in a new sort of political regime or whatever every couple of decades. The what is it, like the fourth estate, or I don't know, they have like a fourth and then a fifth. They just go through them like we need a new whole thing. And they just throw everything out and then start again.
Well, it's because you need a
And
fall guy.
yeah, yeah,
Like, oh, oops, it was all this person's problem. Now we're gonna do something new and better, and then they just don't really do anything new or better.
yeah, absolutely. Well, people, it's difficult for people to change. But I remember I was watching videos of the riots in France, and there was like local shop owners had come out like with like golf clubs or something to stop these rioters, right? And they were like they're swinging so that they wouldn't go near. And then this beautiful young French lady came out, and she was there, and she was saying to the shop owners like, no, it's manifest destiny. Like let them destroy your stores. It's manifest destiny. It should happen. Like it's part of the revolution. I thought that was amazing, like an encapsulation of like France's hilarious and great history of revolutions, but also like kind of a madness that I don't really know if it makes any sense. But yeah, like Europe's in a lot of turmoil. I don't know what we were talking about, like planned communities and stuff. And yeah, you get into a lot of stuff about integration and stuff. And I've been in some Twitter spaces where people have really, really gotten into it. About like, does it work? Does it not? We were talking about the historical oppression of Native Americans and the Black community, and and even some guy, some like one of the this like black guy came on. He was going, we need to like forget about the past, and like we like just as long as there's equal opportunity, then forget about, let's stop talking about everything that's been. We need to stop having this victim mentality. And but I was like saying, yeah, but like history, like the reason why a lot of say a lot of Native Americans are where they are, it's because of the history that they came from, and like the history of oppression and destruction of their people. But not to say that they should cling to it, but it's hard, right? Because like, so I'm Irish, so we have like 800 years of colonialism, and I see the mentality in the populace, right? There's a lot of kind of hang-ups. There's like generational trauma, so it's hard to just kind of tell people like just start again, just or just integrate or just like get over it. It's like it's a big ask, and it takes generations to kind of really make that work. But I wanted to say,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, did you want to
So go
say?
for it. What do
Or
you want to say?
well, I wanted to tie it into maybe Pulte Homes because I saw your the image for your live stream, and it looks like this beautiful kind of utopian play. Is that like, does that have anything to do with Pulte Homes, or what is
Well, that
that
was
like?
that was Disney's
Oh,
idea of,
of a
yeah.
planned community.
Yeah. So Disney was obsessed with this idea. You should look it up. It's called Epcot, and
Oh yeah, what is the actual acronym for? What is it again? It's like
experimental planned
uh,
community of the
of
future.
the future,
Yeah, something like that.
something like that. Yeah, yeah. And he also, I know that there's like a town near Disney called like Liberty something or something like
Yeah.
that. Maybe it's called
And I
Liberty.
already forgot.
Yeah,
Celebration, Florida.
Celebration. That was it. I knew it was just some
Yeah.
generic American, no, Liberty Celebration Eagle, but it's like it's yeah, but it feels like a movie set because it's this kind of idea of like the perfect little American town, right?
I
And
think
actually, sorry, go ahead.
that's the problem is I think that they were trying to go for nostalgia, whereas like
Yeah.
I think that synergy, and and I guess freedom, and like there should be like these other ideals, and I feel like just going hardcore for nostalgia, like here's a book, 160 pages of like all the things you can't do, like what color your doorknobs can be, so that it gives nostalgic feeling. Um, Whereas like it's like how do we facilitate people? I mean, there's personnel. Like I do a lot. Like my main thing actually is I made this personality theory, and I even have an app um, that can analyze for it. But like it takes a while for people to really understand that people are having a different experience in life. For example, I have aphantasia. Like if I try to visualize the front door of my house, like I can't do it, like at all.
Oh, my sister has that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah,
You should have her watch my video on it and see what she thinks. But
sure, I'll send it to her.
it's like if someone gave me $1 million, like I'll give you $1 million if you tell me what color your front door is. Like, oh dang it, like I just couldn't do it. And
That's wild, man.
yeah, but like my mind just sees things different. It sees it in like mind maps and whatnot. And so like for me, I see these connections, and other people just don't see the connections. And it's like, well, how do you not see these connections? They're definitely connected.
Yeah. Well, you have more space, right? It's almost like the visual is can also distract, right?
Yeah.
That's so you've reached a point where you've had to rely more on making those connections as a
It's
map.
just a preference, right? Like I prefer the type of information processing that doesn't involve static images. And that's good
Yeah.
for some things and not good for other things.
Well, my grandfather was illiterate, and he came from like a really rough background, and he ended up starting a business, like like he was a tailor. Actually, a Jewish man taught him everything he knew,
Mhm.
and so we all like our whole family kind of owes this debt to this sort of. I guess he was a refugee from World War II, and he so he taught my granddad everything about tailoring, even though his own father was a tailor and said, "Don't do it; it's a terrible business." And he was like he drank a lot, but my grandfather never drank in his life, and he learned everything he could from this great man, and then he went and built a huge business, making overcoats and suits, and but he couldn't read or write the entire time, but there was something about his mind that worked in a different way, right? So he ended up being able to draw out blueprints for a machine that could sew collars in a specific way without like all this extra stuff. It kind of it flipped it, sewed the collar in. Like the collar is the most complex part of a suit, and no machinist had managed to kind of get it to be automated. So my granddad like just went into a shed and like drew up that thing, and then he designed a machine like as somebody who never couldn't read or write, you know, but had this sort of mind that worked in a different way, that had to work in a different way. He actually had to kind of more think in imagery than than anything else, and because he also had to remember everything, right? And so um, yeah, like actually, then he took it to a trade show, and there was a there was a couple of Chinese people there with camcorders, and then the next year, that type of design with like machine was everywhere, because he didn't know about copywriting or anything, right? Because it was just like at the time actually you couldn't really have a like go around the world doing copyrights for one thing and stuff like that. But yeah, it's interesting how people, if there's one thing that's kind of missing in a way, then the mind compensates and it does it amazingly.
Well, I think it's actually not a compensation, that it gears up for certain processes. So it preferentially dedicates more. It's like, let's say
Oh
that
yeah,
you want to do video games, right? Well, it's like you have your processor doesn't really matter, your RAM doesn't even really matter. You just put like you have cheap, all that stuff's cheap, and then you just have a huge video card. you're going to run whatever video game you want, right? And so that's like how our, but other people are like, well, I'm only doing big spreadsheets, right? So it's like, okay, well, I just want a bunch of RAM or whatnot. So basically, our mind has this, it's called plasticity to it, and it can gear up to process information however it wants to process it. And for someone like your granddad, right, it's like, well, he wants to see like the framework, like the like a mechanical kind of version of it, which doesn't involve words, right? Like we don't need words in a, he wants to see the levers moving in his mind, right? Whereas, you know, for me, I want to see like things like more of a formula. So like the variables within the formula are it's actually, I realized a description of because like my wife has hyperphantasia, so she can visualize really good.
Oh
And
my God.
I see
That's
basically
hilarious.
Bollinger Bands in my brain
Right.
where
Can
like
you can you explain really quick what a Bolger band is? I'm not
so it's
aware.
just like this, like I've been meaning to actually look up exactly what the formula behind it is, but it uses kind of like, I don't know if it's the RSI or the MACD or whatnot, but like it uses a certain range to have like this kind of bubble around it that
Oh,
says like
right.
this is the statistical like part it can go into. So if it comes out of the Bollinger Bands, which like this little bubble thing that surrounds the price, then that's a sign that it's probably going to pull back into it. Um,
Okay.
so if it like widens or contracts, like it's going to typically go through it. And so instead of it saying like this is where, like it's not just a matter of where the stock price is, it's like where could it possibly move up or down, what's like
Within
likely.
this.
And so that's how my brain kind of sees it. So I don't see an object. I see where could that object move, like, or change or innovate in a given direction.
So you want to see like ranges of possibility sort of tied
Yeah,
together.
exactly. I mean, I could.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, you have a very individual way of seeing things. And that's why I think is it's so it's just so great to have you like be part of the Bed Bath crew. Because you do come with that unique angle, and it's very clear. You speak with great clarity.
Oh, thanks.
Um, yeah, yeah. I feel like I don't have that at all, but
No, you do.
but
And your accent's great too, so it makes it even better.
I'll just bring the accent. I think that's probably all I got. But I'll tell you. But I noticed that you're talking about the future of housing here.
Yeah.
Um, and so you posted this image of Disney. Disney's like, was this conceptual? Was it ever built? This kind of
No, no, it wasn't. I mean, I think they kind of broke ground for it, but they never really brought it about. And I mean, but like people have been trying to make utopias for a long time. It just was, I guess when Disney did it, it was the first time, in my opinion, well, the first time that like a non-religious, non-government sort of person had enough money to really put together something
yeah, maybe
on a large scale.
Fordlandia. Do you remember Fordlandia?
No, actually. Oh, no, actually, that's interesting.
Oh, so Ford, um, Ford. He built a city. I think he got it to a at least a large town level in the middle of the Amazon in Brazil. You should check it out. It's really fascinating. It was like a complete like planned community style thing.
Oh, actually, they did mention that, but it like
It was a
literally,
disaster.
yeah. I forgot.
Stick to cars. Stay in your lane.
But like that's the
No,
thing is like there's questions, and like the fact that like we learn the quadratic formula in school and not like, all right, what are the virtues that we're trying to maximize for within a society, and what are the constraints, and what are, like instead of like having that be a discussion, we're literally just learning compliance to our superiors.
yeah,
And like I think that it's just not helping anyone, that we all should be thinking like what are all the things we can optimize, because like we're kind of, society has turned us into like one dimensional creatures where we're only trying to optimize along one scale, like, oh, I just want my stock to go up.
comfort, yeah, or something, or yeah. I find it's like convenience and comfort are the optimizations of the day.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say. Yeah.
And but it's like, well, okay, well, there's comfort now and there's comfort later. What about that? Like, how are we going to balance comfort now versus comfort later? Right? Like,
Hmm.
if I'm making sacrifices right now so that I can invest more, like, but like, well, what if I'm just hodling forever and then I never actually have, like, I've never enjoyed anything just because all my money is tied up in these big old bags?
Yeah,
I mean, like,
yeah.
here, I bought literally
Are you
my.
fudding me? Are you fudding me right now?
But I mean, it's a real question.
I
Like,
knew you were a plant. No, no, sorry.
like, are
Yeah,
we gonna like when are we going to like reevaluate and say like, I don't know, maybe I do need to like we do need to, get someone to work, in the SEC that's like
yeah,
a real person, right? Instead of like
yeah.
maybe
I
we
mean,
do need to try to like elect a politician or someone that can actually make a change.
I find it's so complex and difficult to get a hold of the current power structure, or like break into it, right? Because like you saw, like even the again, I don't want to go too much into politics, but the squad or whatever, they were meant to be the sort of AOC. She kind of ran on healthcare for all and all that stuff, and then when the time came around to kind of force a vote on it, she was against it, right? So you find that there's a lot of people getting compromised.
But even
Um,
that, like when
yeah,
they're trying to pitch it at like such a superficial level, what does it even mean healthcare for everyone? Right?
yeah.
Like just like
Um,
healthcare in general, like even
it was
especially
Medicare for
mental.
all, I guess it was Medicare for
Yeah,
all. I
but
know
like
there is some kind of policy papers on it, that give it some reality, right? They give it some actual form. You know, I don't think it's a crazy, just vague idea. Like I know there is some reality to it. It has been grounded in studies and that kind of thing.
well, like
Whether or not it's possible to actually bring about is another question.
but I even mean just like literally the definition of healthcare. Like
Yeah,
even the concept of healthcare, like why the crap do we have insurance companies? Like that's mind blowing. Like why don't we just have transparency in the hospitals have to be transparent, let the free market actually pull down the prices, and then you can get a 0% interest loan from the government if you need a health thing and you don't have the money, right? Why don't we do that?
yeah. I mean that's pretty reasonable.
Instead
Um,
we're going to have to pay like all these people to then like dictate how we're going to get care and how they can funnel money into whoever. Like the whole system's just so incredibly broken. Like
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, particularly the American system, like the being tied, your healthcare being tied to your job and stuff. I mean, that's immediately that's a messed up kind of way. Like that should be separate.
and
Um,
and they don't know what goes on the background, right? So it's like, okay, well, this person has a nice job, so we'll make them get healthcare so that they pay through the nose for it. But then we'll have all these other people that don't have any healthcare, right? Oh, but then we'll use that to like, I mean, in Bakersfield, like they're the trauma center down there that I was rotating at, right? They have residents from UCLA and they like to go
right.
there because you know you get a lot of people high on meth that walk out in front of cars and get hit, and then you're doing these crazy surgeries to try and save them, right?
Wow.
Like all the time. Like it's like
That was what you were doing. That was part of your work, or were you?
yeah, I mean you rotated through all of it.
That's wild.
I mean, I remember we had one guy that was, doing a drug deal early in the morning and went south and he got shot. No, he got stabbed. Turns out getting stabbed is in a lot of ways worse than getting shot, just in
Really?
case anyone. Yeah. Because a
Why?
bullet,
Because it.
well, because like when people steal guns, typically they have full metal jacketed bullets because they're cheaper, right? Like, so they don't expand. So it basically just goes through you and all your tissue because of like polarity, basically kind of like water and oil separate, like it just kind of like cheese just goes back together. And
Right, right. So it just cuts a clean
yeah,
thing through you, and then
so as long
your
as you don't
body
get
kind
hit
of
and
sticks back together
yeah,
on
but
the
when you
inside.
get a knife in there, they're making a whole pathway and they like straight up, like, and they'll especially get them. I don't know if I want to even say where you're supposed to, but like right in the liver, right? So we had this guy, and like we had to like try and push his liver together, and it's like literally like cheese, but like even more brittle. And we're just like packing it in there, and we were going through his guts. We literally pulled all his guts out, and we're like going through it and sewing up all the holes. And so we'd wait till their like green stuff came out and sew it up, and then move it again. And out of like 5 days, um, we did it's called an exploratory laparotomy, like 3 of the 5 days. And I mean, yeah, he seemed dead, kind of smelled dead, to be honest.
Oh
Like,
my God.
and I remember
You've
going,
lived some life, Michael. You've lived some life already.
yeah,
What in the world?
it's been a long 84 years.
Moas can't come any sooner.
I mean, that's like also the crazy thing is that I've had all these experiences, and yet like I haven't monetized them because of ethical reasons. Like it just was like I probably could have made plenty of money with the vending machine thing,
Hmm.
but I just didn't. I didn't want to. You know it. Um, I mean, I liked
You-
working with the kids. Like I even like so at the kids were too hard on the machines, and so they just like wouldn't open up the machines during lunch. So I'm like, well, I'm literally going to be losing money if I don't actually go there and open up the machines. And so I actually would just stand in front of the vending machines and just hand them the snacks and then just take their money. And I had like my
you
phone.
became the vending machine.
I was vending machine guy, and it was a middle school of sixth graders, seventh graders, and eighth graders. And like it was so, it would like be so rewarding and so cause such like an existential crisis to have kids and they wanted a snack but didn't have any money.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm just like, well, I don't want to make the people that have money have to pay, but like I also, so like I was like, all right, well, if you tell me like a world changing idea, like something that inspires me, I'll give you a free drink or free chips.
That's cool, man.
And so it was mind blowing, having sixth graders and seventh graders like come in and just like, I mean, geez, I had kids like talking about CRISPR gene editing. And they're like, okay, we're going to use CRISPR gene editing to do this like thing. And then I'm like grilling them. Like it's literally like a doctoral dissertation. I was like, well, but like blah, blah, blah. Like, would this really work? Like, how are you going to deliver this drug? Do you think it's just like some small thing? Okay,
And
well,
they're
we're
just
going to
like, give
do,
me the goddamn Doritos.
and they no, but like that's the crazy thing. Then they would like actually have good solutions, and it was like mind blowing. I'm like, dude, you guys are better than all my classmates. Like, they're not inventing crap, and like here you're freaking a seventh grader, and
Well,
yeah,
you
I mean
got
they would
them.
come well prepared,
That's before the imagination gets shut down by school
and that
and all that.
that brings me back to you said the word sociopath, and I think that really what it is that at some point people give up on trying to be nice, and
Mm,
they just like accept the belief that selfishness is the only thing that exists. The word schizophrenia, actually schizo means to cut, and phrenia comes from the phrenic, which is your diaphragm. And so
right.
what it's saying is that it's cutting the link between your mind and your heart, that your heart
Wow.
is saying one thing and your mind is saying the other. So the heart is logical, and then the mind, or the heart is meaningful, and the mind
The
is
mind is
logical.
logical.
And
Yeah.
logically, paying to slander someone is the most effective way to get money, right?
Yeah.
But it's not meaningful. And people have such a hard time of marrying these two ideas. That's actually, in dream language, that's really what it means. Like in your dreams, everyone in your dreams is you. They're parts of you. Every
Yeah.
woman is a part of your heart. Every man is a part of your mind. And it's how you can bring those two concepts so that you can do something both meaningful and logical, optimally together.
Well, I believe. Well, it sounds like you've read the Archetypes of the Collective Unconscious, and I also I'm a big fan of Jung as well, and I believe that like dreams are messages, um, and they're left for you to interpret.
Yeah.
But
And that's
yeah,
actually what I want to be doing actually with my channel is dream interpretation.
really,
Yeah.
that's so cool.
Because I have a different model than Jung, actually. I mean, it overlaps like a tiny amount, but even like his main dreams that he got, like that he his own dreams that he interpreted, I'm like, I don't think that's what that means.
Did you ever see the little this is like a Moas goal that he achieved in real life. Um, before he didn't even have a Moas, but he built that little home, like sort of a stone home with a little tower.
Yeah.
And then he built he had that sort of an idol, almost like it was he had sort of carved all these sort of interesting things into this stone sort of what would you call it, like a just a what would you say, it was like a, it wasn't a pole, but it was it was like a bunch of
Totem.
yeah, totem, exactly, that's exactly it. He had sort of designed his own totem with its own symbols.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that was his getaway, his peaceful getaway. And I've thought about, honestly, I've thought about doing that because first of all, I want a peaceful getaway, but then in my culture there's these dolmens that are carved with Celtic symbols. And my big thing is like Celtic mythology. And I was like, man, I would just love to carve fucking stones in the middle of my own land and just like park them down there, and just be proud that I just carved into stone like a something that means something to me. Like it's just
A
it's very
stone is
primal.
in dream language is a memory.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh
So
man, that's
like, everything from like, when Moses crossed the Red Sea, he put a stone of remembrance, right?
right, right.
And
You
so
never hear about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like also like, so anytime there's a so water, like anything that's like water, female, mammal, dark, low, visible, or round is the heart. It's referring to just like that something's meaningful and shouldn't be measured or controlled. And then anything that's like reptile, male, white, high, square, is, and I guess hard, like a rock,
Is male
is logical.
logical?
And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
So like
Sorry, go ahead.
memories will be logical if they're water, whereas like if it's just stone, it's like you can, because one's conscious, the logical is conscious, and then the meaningful is unconscious. And
Hmm.
so a rock is a conscious memory, whereas water is an unconscious memory.
Yeah, yeah, that's very interesting. I always find it interesting how the 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 soft and the hard are often delineated as the female and the male. Even in throughout like mythology in many cultures, the so you have the moon is the woman,
Yeah.
and the sun is the man. The rivers are woman. It's a very interesting, very
And
interesting thing.
it's all about like trying to, so what a baby is it's an integration product. So it means that the heart and mind came together and created something new that was more integrated. And that's why like in mythology you have all these weird marriages that don't really make sense. You're like, were they just like really perverted? Where it's like, oh yeah, I know, let's do like an incest like
Yeah.
mythology. But really like each person is parts of you. They're like the organs of your body, and they just personify what they personify, right? Of different virtues or different qualities. And
Yeah.
so it's like you're taking a logical quality and a meaningful quality, and you're marrying them, and then you get a new integrated kind of tool you can use. Um, the Hercules or the Jesus or the um,
Yeah. Oh, sorry, were you gonna continue or were you?
well, no, I mean just that's like it's interesting that people are like kind of scared of their mind, but literally like you can't. They're like, oh, I dreamed about this person, and like, what does it mean? I had sex with them or something. It's like, no, like that's great, like good. That means that you integrated a part of you. Like
Yeah,
it's like, what do they
yeah.
represent? Like, are they patient? Are they like assertive? Like what is it?
I think the goal is integration, and I was talking in a Twitter space about there were people who were very logically minded, and they said there's nothing in the Bible that's helped taught me anything about humanity, right? And I was saying, well, the Bible should be read metaphorically, like and they're like, well, what do you learn from it? Well, I was like, you learn, you know, adversity to suffering, the whole carry your cross thing, and that was actually meant for the individual. It was meant for the spirit. Like the metaphor of Jesus on the cross is the crucifixion of the self.
It,
Um,
it's
yeah,
also integration, right? So the
exactly,
cross
integration.
is
Yeah, yeah.
square, right? So it's masculine. And
Hmm.
then water coming out of his chest, right, is the
Yeah,
feminine. So he
yeah.
literally integrated both. And that's actually what the Garden of Eden, this walled or paradise is walled garden. The wall is the masculine, the garden is the feminine. And like,
Right.
people don't realize like the symbolism of, like, for example, you hear a lot of people talk about um the she bear that eats, that some kids call the prophet bald, and then and then the prophet curses him, and then God sends this she bear to go eat the kids. And it's like, wow, what kind of God is this?
Yeah.
But like the question is like, you can tell when something's symbolic because it doubles up on the symbolism. So
Right.
how do they know that the bear was a she bear?
I think it's like the mother devours the child in a kind
I mean,
of
that's a good point. That could also, wow, I could get on board with that. My
yeah,
take was that, like, basically they knew, like, if it was a she bear, then they'd have to it'd probably have cubs. So
yeah.
if the kids were messing with the cubs and then got eaten, that doesn't have anything to do with the prophet, right? Could just be
Hmm.
like, wow, the prophet was walking by, some kids made fun of him. They also were harassing some bear cubs, and then the mom ate them. Okay, well, that just sounds like they poked the bear.
Yeah.
um, God's not involved. God's not cursing them. But like the fact that it's a she bear and there weren't any cubs, what it's just meaning is that, like, it's doubling up, saying this is a meaningful thing, and saying it's not meaningful to expose someone's nakedness or to ridicule them. But like, it
Right.
kind of brings
Yeah.
us back to Pulte, right? Like that Marshall guy or whatever, that he sees value. It's logical to make fun of people and try and expose their nakedness, right?
Hmm.
But your heart doesn't like that. Your heart will eat yourself alive if you
Yeah. It's
try to do that.
corrosive. It's
Yeah.
corrosive to the soul.
So
Like
that's why they
I
try to turn it off, and with whatever
yeah.
they can, whatever their vice is.
Vices. Yeah. Absolutely. Hookers on Wall Street or whatever it takes, but
Yeah.
high class hookers. But yeah, like you wonder about these people. Like same with Ken Griffin. The getting up on stage and blaming retail for
Taking
quote
teachers'
unquote
pension
gambling
funds.
with teacher pensions. Yeah, it's like that's exactly what he's doing. It's pure projection. But these people, that's how the sort of borderline type, those types of personalities, the sociopathic personalities kind of work. They blame you for their for what they are doing right in front of you, and it's just pure gaslighting. But there's no there isn't a heart in there. There's no reason. It's just survival, right? It's just bare kind of fighting to the end. Fighting for survival, fighting the enemy, the perceived enemy. Um, yeah, and they'll go as far as they want, and I think it's the same delusion that drives endless FTDs, right? You know, um, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I'm sorry. Is this a
No,
regular type of conversation you
you
have
know,
in your show?
no, but I like you, and I mean, I don't even know what's regular anymore. Like, I know that, a lot of cultures, a lot of mythologies, a lot of philosophers have said identity is a dangerous thing. So I'm
Yeah,
not going to try and stick to just, I'm trying to not have that play a factor. But
cool.
you
I
know,
like your show. I like the type of show you run. It's way more chill and open to discussion.
well,
You know.
us nine people, it's kind of easy to police.
did I half your listeners?
And Sam over here, faithful Sam.
Faithful Sam. I was chatting with Sam in the chat there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, but that it kind of shows, like, right, like, what is it that people want to watch? Do they want to watch?
Well, they're probably here for Bill Pulte and BBBY.
But I think that it really comes together because it's like, I actually wrote like I don't know. I mean, was like, I wrote like a whole story. It was like where Moses was RC and Pulte was Aaron because he speaks for Aaron. And the more
You actually
actually,
wrote it? You wrote that?
yeah.
That's awesome, man. But
Well,
did
like
you put dialogue and stuff? Was there dialogue?
well, I mean, I actually just kind of just went through the story and then just kind of like switched names and added in context and
That's
stuff.
good.
But
What did you change?
not a lot actually. It was like pretty clearly followed the same pattern, of like, so it's like we have to, I don't know, like, um, I don't know. I mean, it's actually my mind trying to reach back to. I'd have to reread it too. Um,
I'd be up for a reading sometime.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wrote a story
yeah,
about, well, it's a satire about this entire saga. Um, I have to go back to it, but it starts with Ken Griffin like in the Citadel offices, like looking down over the ants, on the down on the Chicago street, and being like, it actually starts with Chicago, like city of sophistication,
yeah.
he's like, he ignores, he like marvels at the buildings all around him, while he ignores the distant sounds of gunshots. And then he's like interrupted in his thinking with, because he's like he's like looking down at the people. He's like, they're all just like fear and desire. Like they can be algorithmically programmed, right? Because like that one interview he does where he's just like, you know, emotions are just, they're just, you can put an algorithm on them, and then you control the world basically. He's like, we can map emotions, and that's how we trade, and you know all that stuff. So just seeing people as mere data points, right? And uh, and then he's interrupted by like a trumpeter, because everyone in Citadel, he like has them all sort of dressed up as like knights, and like messengers and heralds and stuff, like, apart from the trading floor, which he just goes down and like he just smashes people's desks and with bedposts and stuff. And then I have like an entire floor. So basically, like, his thing is he's trying to like understand the mind of the ape, right? Like of like these investors. 'Cause he's like, because that's the one thing the algorithm could never predict, and he's the algorithm. And he has a floor that he basically gets a bunch of monkeys from the Chicago Zoo, and he fills the floor of the Citadel building with them, and just has tickers stuck all over the wall. And he has them like throw, like, he's like, just let them throw shit at the wall, and whatever like has the most shit, like, just buy that. We need to understand the mind of the ape. And and then he brings in like the head curator of the Chicago Museum of Art or whatever, and it's like, because I remember reading a thing that he does where he has like, he would bring people in to like, give them shit, and
Yeah.
he would pour coffee from one cup to another, like a half cup of coffee, and like stir it, and like just kind of freak you out by doing this weird shit, on the down low, while he's like talking shit to you. And so I have him like, he has like a beautiful like a vase, that like, or a vase, or however you say, like an amphora, like a Greek amphora, and he's filled it with like, rare mayo. And he's fucking it while he's telling this museum curator that like art means nothing to him, like this vase is like priceless. And the guy's like, please just donate the vase, like this is a, he's like, I don't care. And then he smashes it with a bedpost, and he's just, you know I actually have, there's like an orphan that he like adopts, and to carry around, like a caddy, to carry around like different bedposts, like, the one from Versailles, and like he's got like names for them all. And then and then I have like, he has to, like, he goes to meet like the CEO of Robin Hood, like, or like Vlad, like Vlad's over in LA, and like some, like, he's in like like a, like kind of a Sherwood forest that he's built for himself, with like people, like ladies like fanning him with big feathers and stuff, and he's just this completely over the top nut job. But like, on the way there, like, they have to get out of the Citadel building, and as they come down, like, the the what's the team that Michael Jordan's in? Like, what do they call it? Michael Jordan's team. But anyway,
It's
like
the Bulls.
the Bulls, yeah. So the Chicago Bulls are like bursting through the front door, so they'll be like, "Where's my money?" you know, and it's like, "I want my money," you know. But yeah, I wrote a bunch of like really silly kind of scenes like that. It ends. It's called um oh, what is it? It's like it's something about or pounded by the silverback, and it ends with him going to the Chicago Zoo to finally understand like the ape mind and like enticing a silverback gorilla to fuck him. It's kind of an erotica, but it's mostly a satire.
It's gonna be really funny, like what actually comes out when like people have money to like pay animators and like there's these
Oh
whole
yeah,
movies that are like,
the quality of memes is going to be unreal.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but they're always been pretty good. I love Mr. Furno. I actually talked to him to do the cover for the book.
Who's that?
It- it- So he's the guy who did like the weird Ken Griffins, like that were like nipples and
Oh, really?
that
Nice.
guy like with the droopy eye. Like he took Ken Griffin as an image and just deformed it in such an amazing way. Like he had him like the famous one is he's halfway sticking out of the collar of his suit, and it's just these weird googly eyes. And how have you never seen a Mr. Furno?
Dude,
Uh,
I'm like somewhat new to Reddit, so like that's
right.
why like it's like one reason I get imposter syndrome, other than the fact that I'm not a finance person or a legal person, is just the fact that like I mean I don't know, I've only even been on Reddit for I don't know, like a year or less, like not even really that. I don't even know, like
Right.
6 months
Well,
maybe.
it's a shit platform. I'm just telling you now. I don't
Yeah,
think you missed much. It's great for DD and PB shows one is solid, But if that's when you would have come into Reddit, then the era of good like DD was long gone. At that point, you
yeah. I
know.
mean, I kind of noticed that when I was writing DD when I first got in, it was actually like I got curious about actually Blue Apron, and I actually had kind of like the best DD. Like everyone was like, "Yeah," and then it ran. Like after I wrote a bunch of DD, it ran like 200%,
Oh,
no, three
nice.
hundred percent.
Were you
I
were
didn't
you
sell.
submitting it to Wall Street Bets?
No, of course not. It was just on Short Squeeze subreddit.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I worry about that. So much of that is like astroturfed.
It was just weird that like like I'd have like a full like this is the thesis, and it was good, and yet like everyone else is like, oh, this is the new play, trust me, bro, and I'm like, come on, like why don't we just like actually write DD? Like there's a
Yeah.
thesis. Yes, it was a lot longer than I thought. I actually started running last like it's gone up like 75% in the
Oh
last
my
like
God.
couple months. It's like kind of funny because like right when I'm like give up on it, finally it's like coming through, but whatever. Let me just
Yeah.
answer this question real quick. Actually, maybe you can help me.
Sorry, am I hogging the show, by the way? Should I
No,
go
no,
or?
no. This is great. I'm enjoying this. This is
All right.
I
I'm
mean,
enjoying talking to you too. Yeah.
and I think other people, I mean, eventually, more than 11 people will be watching this and they'll be like, wow, this is cool.
I don't think they will.
Let's see. Well, let's see. Golden Rocket. If Bed Bath squeezes. Oh yeah. So I mean, as far as Bed
We should
Bath is,
talk about bed bats. Sorry. Yeah.
no, we'll just do like 2 minutes and just answer his question. Just one of the chosen 11 people here. Um, that I think like as soon as news comes out and it's like that Ryan Cohen's in, or even just the fact that like for example, Blue Apron, it took till Blue Apron said just recently they're like, oh, we're not going to have any cash issues, and so that's why it's been running for the last like week straight. And I'm not saying jump in because at this point it would have been great to jump in at $5, but also as long as you're willing to wait for a while. But um, yeah, so like there's like a certain thing. It was like they literally the stock price just stayed suppressed until the company filed something and said, we don't need any cash. We're definitely not going to dilute. And then it was like, okay, cool. So Bed Bath and Beyond is waiting for the similar kind of thing. If they're like, because like people still just don't understand like the situation, and the mainstream media is like doing that on purpose of like what exactly the relationship between Dream on Me and Bed Bath and Beyond is, because like they have stores, but literally, as far as I can read, they're not allowed. Dream on Me is not allowed to run a store. They don't. They didn't buy the employees. Um, so, and they can't even run it even if they didn't buy the employees. So I think it's that they're planning on buying the rest of it. And so as soon as they're like, okay, now we're going to buy the rest of it, or it might just be that they bought it but they're paying for all the debt. So now it's like, okay, the shareholders are going. We're getting with the carve out. We just get our shares and bye baby, and then it's gonna like, oh, our 11 stores are going great. Okay, well then you get a jump in those shares of the bye baby shares, even without Ryan Cohen being like involved at all, actually. And then they announce, oh, hey, we're gonna be doing 120 new stores. You know, right now we're gonna, or like we're geared up to just go big. Well, then the prices of the bye baby shares are gonna go up. And then, Bed Bath and Beyond, if they're like, hey, yeah, like they deal with Kroger's going through, we're remodeling it, we're introducing it into like 50 stores to start with, of Kroger, and boom, then the Bed Bath and Beyond shares will go up. That's like without any shorts covering, without anything happening, just normal. So I think there's lots of different squeezes, but I mean, even just it going to the fair value of what each of those things is going to be is going to be, you know, I mean, at least $7 a share combined of the two shares. So, which from where it's at right now is quite a big jump. But yeah, once that happens, then like the shorts also have to close, and if Ryan Cohen even comes in at all, that also is just going to, you know, send it to the moon. So, subject to the 30% tax on the whole amount, including the investment. Right. Corporate action is taken place to the broker as the country where I live. Every actually, maybe Sears can answer that better than me. I don't know if this is a European. I mean, it probably is with what time it is.
Oh yeah. What's the question?
Well, I don't know. They're saying, let's see. The reason I'm asking is because I would need barbecue to squeeze before any form of corporate action has taken place through the broker as the country where I live. Every corporate action, such as a merger acquisition, is subject to 30% tax on the whole amount, including the investment. Oh,
Oh,
well,
every corporate action. That's wild.
well, I think 30% of, if we, I mean, if it goes to $7, right, what that's like a 20 something X. So, I mean, it's not gonna be that bad to give 30% of like a shiz ton of money, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, it
Yeah.
would suck, but like, I mean, that's it going to seven, like the 20X is kind of like just the starter, right? And then that's like before the
Yeah.
squeeze. So like,
But
I
is
mean,
he not? Is he not just talking about um, capital gains tax on selling shares? Or
um,
is he saying he has to pay out for every corporate action? That's kind of
yeah,
I've
I'm
never
not
heard of
really
that.
sure. I think it might just switch the status of it or something, but
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll find out. But I mean, I think that I don't know, if 20X is kind of the beginning, like we really could be doing 100X. And yeah, at that point,
We're going
30%.
into the thousands, man. It's going to be good.
Like if we do it, I just like can't really fathom of like, cause that's like, I mean, I have like 180,000 shares. So like,
God damn.
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Whale, Michael.
but like, yeah, yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I only got like 55K. I'm not a big whale. But yeah, people like Sun Devil Rogue and stuff. I'm just like, dude, your whole life is going to change like wildly.
yeah.
So is yours, man. So is yours. It's fucking
Yeah.
awesome.
No, I mean, I'm excited. I have all these other projects I want to be doing. Yeah, I mean, my website, mindandemotion.com, if anyone wants to check it out. If
Oh, I'll check that
Also,
out.
if anyone wants to help me get my Twitter app and right in front of the right person, I'll give them a chunk of whatever we get. So it works. You can literally type in any person. It'll tell you who the five most similar and most opposite people are, and it'll give a whole 150-point analysis of their personality just based on their texts or their
Did
tweets.
you like base it on different types of personality tests, like the Myers Briggs or and stuff like that?
No, it's like my own whole theory. So it has
Wow.
7 emotions, and they're correlated with just actually the emotions each person experiences. And then within those 7 emotions, there's 3 other dichotomies. There's concrete versus abstract, and then there's like risk assessing versus asset appreciating, and then there's perceiving versus prioritizing.
Hmm.
And so, um, yeah, I mean, might as
That's
well
pretty
if
interesting.
the 11 people that love me are here.
It's a weird time zone, you know. It's like fucking 8 a.m. here or something. Yeah.
That's
I
crazy.
haven't slept.
You haven't
But
slept.
no, no.
Is
These
your whole like schedule like inverted or?
oh yeah, it's completely messed up. But I work from home, so I'm all right. But PB show and these Twitter spaces absolutely destroyed my sleeping pattern. So, but
Well,
that's wild. Are you building like a program for sentiment analysis or anything, or
I mean,
because
it
I'm
probably, I mean, it probably could do it, but like these are the 7 emotions. Each one, our emotions are actually our heart suggesting a general approach. And so when you're talking, like a lot of people are business, it's this emotion, right? Or they just go for what's functional, what's clever, it's enterprising with confidence, right? But like intimidation, cheating, exploitation, and competitiveness is when it goes like wrong. And jealousy and unoriginality, right? Like, and so we all use some of these weapons, which are the ones in the outer ring, and then we hate some of them. So let's say that I hate unoriginality. It's going to put me. Well, actually, the way it's set up is there's 2 opposites. So this is a white square, so it'd be a black. So it'd mean that like aspiration and ethics, right? Or vision and creativity. So you can see that that's something I dislike. So if someone does something bad, but it's also unoriginal, like let's say that the housing market, the economy crashes in 2008 because you made tranches full of like mortgage-backed securities, and then they just do the same thing, but then they do security-backed securities, like security basket, like whatever. Like that's
zero for
even,
creativity, 0 points.
yeah, it's like that's even worse in my opinion because it's like it's not even creative. It's like nothing new came out of that. Like you're just like I don't know. It's just offensive to me. It's like if you're gonna
Yeah,
screw us
yeah.
over, like at least do it creatively.
Yeah, yeah. At least make me think it's brilliant. You know,
I mean, like,
it was like you know Jake Freeman's. "Oh, I wrote a paper on selling CDSs on bonds. You know, I was like, shit. That shit was happening. That shit happened to Sears, and Eddie Lampert destroyed it.
yeah,
Just going, you know, like you're acting like you're some legend. Somebody probably wrote that for you, and you're like 20 years old, and you're making these big dick moves. You know and getting destroyed in court. Sorry, I don't know. I just like shitting on Freeman.
no, I mean, I'm definitely not gonna try and defend him. I mean, I don't even I think that like even when people talk about like these creative rationale behind like someone like Ken Griffin, like do having all these FTDs and whatnot. It's like, no, I think it's literally as simple as like he's greedy. Hey, they're gonna buy it, and there's nothing they can do about it. It's gonna be worthless. Like I'm gonna make sure it's worthless. Like period. If, I'm gonna sell as many as they want to buy at that price, and just make sure it goes to
Yeah,
zero.
yeah. I mean, it's just basic fraud. I mean, that's what like you were talking about Lacan and I guess what is it, the big or the other? It was
Yeah,
like you know, a lot of people defer to the authority of these crooks who have gotten there by no means of merit.
Yeah.
And we kind of say, oh, they're the masters of the financial world and all this stuff, and they act the part, but really it's like the Wizard of Oz, right, with the little fucker behind the curtain. You're just like, you know, that's what it is at the end, and then they're dragged out in cuffs, hopefully. But yeah, I mean,
I mean, even
algorithms do
like
most of the work at this point
you got
as
like the
well.
CEO of like Virtu, right? It's like, oh, like, hey, like, well, there's all these buyers and sellers. Like, there must be like some arbitrage like opportunity. Like, I know, like, I'll like raise some money and just get some programmers to make something to take advantage of that. I guarantee, like, it doesn't really know how it works. It's just like,
That's it. I mean, like they just hire the smartest people they know or they can
yeah.
find, and then they just give them orders. I mean, they swear to God, that's it. They just bark orders at these
But
people.
that's what like happened throughout all of history, right? Like even, going back to Disney, right? Like so Disney was talking about like the city of the future. Um one of his Disney park areas was going to be or it was Tomorrowland. And so he wanted to like kind of talk to people about space travel and stuff. So he literally got like a Nazi, scientist to literally but like even like
Sorry.
the but even like the US then like to win the rocket race, it's like we use all these Nazi
Oh
scientists.
yeah, NASA was full of them, wasn't it?
Well, the
Yeah.
reason that see, that's the thing, like people try to simplify. It's like, oh, they hated Jews and they were just sociopaths. And it's like, no, like they had the smartest people. If you look at, like where does the Nobel Prize come from? France, right?
Hmm.
So do you think France is going to have a bias towards some other country or their own people and giving a Nobel Prize award?
Well, probably themselves, I
Probably
guess.
themselves, right? So
Yeah.
if Germany won like in the turn of the century, if Germany won like what was like 17 out of the first like 24 Nobel prizes, it wasn't out of favoritism. It was they just genuinely were smarter.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's a good
And
point.
so, you know, that's
Well, I
what
mean, you can
yeah.
separate these people from their skills, their political beliefs and their whatever evil shit they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Tyson. Was it Tyson who bit someone's ear off?
You know what's
Mike
funny
Tyson.
about that?
Yeah, tell me. Well, it is funny already, but
So
yeah.
my no, it's like hilarious. So I'm 8 years old or whatever, and, my neighbor calls my dad, and he's like, "Hey, so I bought this fight on pay-per preview, and I'm telling my wife that people are gonna come over and help pay for it, but, like, you don't have to pay for it, I just need you to come." And so my dad's like, "Okay, sure." He's like, "It's about time my son learns about boxing or whatever." And so I'd been doing some wrestling, like, just, I guess, with friends and whatnot. But I didn't really like, we live in the country. I didn't even have, like I didn't know that we even had, like, really TV at that time. I know that sounds, like, crazy, but, like, I was out building
Oh,
forts and
it
riding
sounds
bikes and
idyllic.
stuff.
It sounds idyllic.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean, I thought it was pretty idyllic, but I mean, like, I missed out on, like, the whole, like, MTV thing and, like,
I kind of
just
did too. We were building
sports.
forts. Yeah, we were building forts in the green areas all around and stuff like that. Like if you found a crowbar, it was like you found a golden sword, and you know, yeah, we had bases and stuff and tree houses and all. Yeah, yours sounds even wilder. I like that you were traveling around. You were driving around, you had mopeds and maybe ATVs or I don't
Yeah,
know. Yeah,
ATVs.
cool shit. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we go over to the neighbor's house and, like, I can't remember what it was about the way they were boxing. It was like that, like, it seemed like that Holyfield was, like, headbutting him or something. I'm like, "Is that, like" I can't remember what it was, but it was like I was like, "If I was that guy, I'd just bite him."
No, you were
Yeah,
already thinking it.
yeah, and so there's, like, my neighbor, and then he brought other friends that we didn't even know, right? And, like, everyone just laughs, and my dad's, like, kind of embarrassed. He's like, he's like, "Yeah, like, son, you can't just, like, bite people."
Yeah,
You know?
he's like, shit, I haven't told my son not to bite people.
Yeah, just like,
Your
this is a
neighbors are like, you're
civilized
raising a savage. Like, yeah.
yeah, like, this is a civilized thing, it's a gentleman's sport, and, like, they just don't do that, and I was like, "Yeah, but, like, he's" I can't remember what I was even, like, complaining about that he was doing, it just seemed, like, unethical or whatever, and it's like and so, like, they're all just, like, kept laughing about it, like, every, like, couple of minutes, they're just like they kept shaking their heads, it's like, "One, I'm like 8, like, it's
Yeah,
whatever,
it's
cut me some
just
slack."
silly stuff, yeah.
And then literally he bites his ear and everyone just turns over to me like, "What the freak?"
The
I
savant 8-year-olds
was
in
like,
the
"See, I
corner.
told you, like, I just bite him."
You were already reading the body language thing. This
Yeah,
guy
I guess
deserves to fucking get bitten.
that's a good point. It was like, I don't know, kinda like when I'm not, like, really that into sports, like, in basketball, there's just, like, this, like, to try and penetrate the key or whatever, like, I don't know, it's like this weird kind of, like it just gets kinda grindy, like,
Mm.
like in a video game where you're like and I remember someone playing this one game like Runestone or something. They were just like literally grinding wood like for like
Oh,
hours.
RuneScape. That's RuneScape.
Like I'm
Yeah.
not maxed out on my like wood sticks or something.
I used to play that game, but I wasn't so. I even played an even grindier game where when you died, you like you lost so much time and experience, and you lost all your gear. It was punishing, man. It was designed by Germans actually, who may have been Nazis, but that was the old school gaming, man. That was some real hardcore stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Sorry, yeah, you were saying
that
that's
was
a funny story.
yeah,
Yeah,
so and then our neighbors moved, but then every time like, they've kind of came back and checked in, they still just laugh about it. They're like, that's just the funniest thing ever.
thought you would have been a boxer then, maybe. You already wrestling. Did you keep wrestling into your
Yeah,
teens
I mean,
or
I have a good friend and we still wrestle. Actually, whenever I see him, it's just funny,
just
see
knock them
who's
over?
more out of shape.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. That's. Do you
out of
watch
breath.
the UFC and stuff?
Not that much. I mean, it is. Yeah, I guess I'm not like a
Yeah,
super violent person, although I wouldn't like. I'm fascinated by mixed martial arts. I don't necessarily want to see like just a
yeah,
face beaten to pulp and like
yeah. I get it. I get it. I'm
yeah.
pretty. I guess I'm kind of sensitive in that way too. Like, but I was following McGregor and stuff, and that was a great time. To watch him take over the world in a way. But
Can't
yeah,
remember
yeah.
if
I'm not like a crazy UFC guy either.
I actually met, you said that name, I don't know if it was that guy, actually, I don't even remember. I have a picture of,
Conor McGregor.
maybe? I don't know. I don't remember
Yeah,
who it
I'll
was.
tell you how to recognize him. He's very Irish. It's like
He's a lightweight champion.
yes, yeah,
Oh, really?
and double weight. Yeah, you won featherweight too. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you meet
Um,
him?
well, I mean, I don't know if I should say, because it was in a medical, I guess, circumstance, but like this guy would like, so, oh, this would be funny. So, like, so I'm like, I weigh this guy, he's like a buck 50, and so I found that like by taking someone's blood pressure, I could see like how relaxed or whatnot they were, and
Hmm.
that I could actually tell the nature of their stress by their arm when you try to move it. Um, and
Cool.
so I'm like holding his arm, and I don't know that it was McGregor. It might have been.
Was he telling you to fuck off?
He has a
Like, oh, me
he had a
fucking
book
arm.
and stuff.
He has a book. Wait, did he have a book?
I should just find the
He
selfie I
he
took
he
with
was
him.
big into The Secret, which is hilarious. Like he'd
Oh,
post on
really?
his Instagram, yeah, and he'd read The Secret and be like, and you imagine you can do and all this weird stuff. It was,
It might actually, maybe it's not him, but he was a lightweight. He was a lightweight champion. I don't
yeah.
remember his name, and so I had no idea who he was when I'm like, and I was like, oh, your arms tie. You stressed? And he's like, just because I worked out, and And I was like, "Oh, you do any sports? What do you do?" He's like, "Yeah, I do some fighting." And at the
That's
first I was
surprisingly
like,
humble for him.
I'm
Yeah.
like 6'4", and I'm like, "Man, my reach is like a lot longer, like further than him." I was like, "I wonder what would happen in a fight."
You get the shit kicked out of you, man. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
tell you that.
yeah, I definitely would. And yeah, it's like he would. I mean, it's like I weigh like 185. His a buck 50 would tie me in a freaking knot or whatever he wanted to do. Like I don't know there'd be anything I could do about it. But
That's hilarious. Yeah.
yeah, so that was
So did you challenge him to a fight or anything?
no, I just in my head when he was like to fight, like I was just imagining him just like street fighting and like I don't know, but he was super cool and like he was telling me some stories about like how he got into it and whatnot. But then like this other guy came in like that didn't even work there just to like I guess my boss like told him that he was going to be here and so I'm like, what are you doing here? And, like this was before I like knew that he was even like someone famous. I'm like, why is this random guy just like come into like I don't know. It was like super super awkward. And then he like wants his autograph. I was like, oh, maybe he's like actually like a local pro or something, But
Yeah.
yeah, no, that was interesting. But
Yeah. That's pretty wild. I mean, you probably should have got his autograph. Maybe you could have sold it for.
well, I mean, I got a
Yeah.
selfie. It's somewhere in my phone.
Dude, you gotta send me that. You gotta send me that. I wonder if it was McGregor. Yeah.
I mean, he says he trains in Sacramento, so I don't know if you know where McGregor trains.
He did train in California. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. He lived there for a while. He had a house. He was always getting into trouble later on. Um, just speeding cars, and I think the money and stuff just got to his head, and he uh he kind of famously he was like gearing up for a fight with this guy, Habib, who was like this devout like Muslim from
Yeah.
I don't know, Kyrgyzstan or some weird country out there, and it was this hilarious like dichotomy of like this guy who's like super kind of like he preaches kind of like that kind of doctrine of the kind of Muslim kind of sort of doctrine, but at the same time he's like vicious as hell and also kind of somewhat hypocritical, right? And he had all these guys around him who would like take cheap shots at like McGregor's guys and stuff, and so that it just got this big crescendo of like they hated each other so much, and then McGregor, I think he just probably just done a lot of coke, and then he just brought all his mates, just drugged out of it on a private jet, like to fly to America to like attack this guy in his, and he was, and they found him, like they found where he was, and his crew was like leaving this place in a bus, and then McGregor's crew just like runs in and like they picked up like trolleys that were just lying around in the parking lot and just threw them at the bus, just like smashing the windows in and all this stuff. And it was probably the peak of the point of where he just the downfall began, right? It was like because before like everyone in Ireland was like this guy's a legend,
Yeah.
he was bringing our kind of culture to the world and stuff, and he was like he really was this hero, this absolute, unbeatable, just force of nature, and he it just I don't know, man, I don't know what happened, but in his prime he was something else. He was something else, man. I'll tell you. Yeah. I don't want to fucking go on talking about McGregor here,
No,
but
I was just
I
no,
wanted to
actually, it's
ask
interesting.
you.
I was trying to look up to see what the like if there was a list of heavyweight or lightweights, so I could try to figure out what the guy's name is.
Would you remember his face?
Yeah. I mean, I could just
You
go through
just
my phone, but it was
you
like
just check
I don't
out
know,
McGregor
3 or 4 years
some other
ago.
time. Yeah,
I
some other
looked at
time.
McGregor. It's not. I don't think it's him.
God damn. All right. Well,
Yeah.
the autograph probably wouldn't have been worth it then in the end. But I'll say, I wanted to ask you about like is Pulte building planned communities
I mean,
like planned?
they already have some. Like the one of the ones I brought up was um, one in Texas. And basically, there's like a list of home builders you can have build your home. So you buy the lot, and then you contract the home builder.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really wild because Sears has a lot of land in Texas for some reason. I don't know why, but they're also building planned communities in Texas. And yeah, they recently announced one where they have like a data center kind of as part of the community. So like they've worked at that, like the off heat from the data center like provides hot water to the homes and all this stuff. So it's very interesting kind of thing where it's kind of green style, futuristic neighborhoods, and I think they're part of the kind of 15-minute neighborhoods or whatever it is, and all that kind of thing. Like they're absolutely building a lot of these things, and I wonder how much like Pulte is and Pulte Homes are kind of doing. It's
Well, I mean,
weird because you have to separate Pulte Homes from Pulte. You
yeah, because
know,
he doesn't really have any influence right now, I think.
yeah, yeah. It's weird, isn't it? Because like you
Which
want
is
it to
why
be
I
him.
think that what he wants is for a lot of people to become investors so that,
Hostile takeover.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm down.
Yeah, me too.
You know.
I mean, right now I don't have a lot of money to do it.
Oh yeah, I'm
I mean, if
totally
Pulte
tapped
would
out.
talk to Elon about my Twitter app, then I would be able to buy a ton of Pulte home
Oh
stock.
yeah, dude,
So
send me your Twitter app. I'll tweet it at him.
yeah, I mean, it's on my website, mindandemotion.com, but I have a video actually. Actually, on my Twitter, I posted a video of how to use it, which like that's probably the best thing because like the app it'll limit out on how many different tweets can be pulled.
Right.
So it's just kind of more of a proof of concept. Like right now, it's not pulling that many; it's only pulling like 100 per person, and which isn't really enough to get like a good gauge of someone's personality. Um,
Yeah. Like, what about the retweets? And so, I suppose the retweets would count as you know personality driven,
yeah, and I'm
right?
not sure exactly. I don't know if it's going for retweets. Like I have a guy that helps me, and yeah, I'm not really sure exactly how he set it up. I think it's just regular tweets though.
Right. Cool. Cool.
So I
Interesting.
just I just have the like the word list and the algorithm stuff, and then he makes all the magic happen, I guess.
How do you meet someone like that, or did you know him already?
So I'd met his brother, and then I needed some artwork done for something, and I just posted on Facebook, and then he was like, "Oh, I'll do it," and so I paid him, and then I was like, "Oh, I need someone to do some programming," because I hired someone off Fiverr, and it was good for a little bit, and then they just rugged me like right when I sent them like a lot of money. Like so I'd like send them like, $100 and $200 for another thing, and then I send them like $800, and then they just ghosted me.
God damn.
I was like, cool.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah. Cool.
So
Cheers.
I almost just kind of gave up on it at that point, but then I was like, I'll just see if there's anyone, and yeah, like he knows his crap, and like it we've done a lot. He even had it set up to where it'd pull your text messages, and it would compare how you speak to one person versus how you speak to everyone on average, and that
Right.
was like incredibly insightful. But then Apple has like impenetrable security, and then Google went up their security, so no, that feature no longer works. But it was super sick when it was working.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you do text people differently, you
Yeah.
know, depending on who it is.
And you can see
But
how like matched up it is and stuff. When you watch the video I did, it's a short video too. It's only like 4 minutes that explains how it works. You'll
cool. I'll
see.
check it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about like citizens' criticism of Pulte Homes like
It's
sort of
it,
operation?
it's valid. I mean, everyone wants to just have rent, like to just like they want to be in control and they want to extract rent. I mean, that's
Hmm.
literally what a government does is they're rent seeking, you know, entities. And yeah, so I mean, it's their way of, I don't know that they're the ones doing it directly or if that investors just automatically buy it all up, you know?
Yeah,
So, I don't know that they're doing it. I don't know whether Blackstone is doing it. Probably Blackstone's doing it actually, and then Blackstone's renting it out. But like, that's the thing is people don't really know what goes on behind, like how things work and like how business works. It's like, look, business works. Like, if we want to change that, how are we really going to take on Blackstone? You just show up to a
yeah,
city, you look for what place is available, and then you just rent it, even if it's from Blackstone. No,
yeah. It's not gonna.
what do we have to do to be able to cut them out of the equation? Well, they have to not be needed. And
Hmm.
no one, no, I mean, people like, I watched a meme like clip thing about like a realtor, and he's like, please just let me do something useful. Like, I feel bad taking like 30 grand. Like, I'm just like showing you the house, and that's literally what you could do yourself. Like, this is a bathroom. Like, you've been in lots of bathrooms. And
Yeah,
like, but it's true. Like, we let all these middlemen come into this system, and it's like they're not needed. Like, it's just ridiculous. And especially with technology. I mean, I don't know. I just think if everyone was more educated about more things, then you wouldn't need as many middlemen, taking their chunk, taking the cream off the top at every step.
yeah. I mean, in many ways, this movement is about removing middlemen.
Yeah.
Removing market makers, removing, automating everything.
And
Um, yeah, NFTs, like the contracts for, that's coming for lawyers so
but
fast.
even that, like, does it really work to have a distributed ledger if no one looks at it?
Oh,
If the
you mean in terms of like, are you saying like that it won't catch on
Well,
quickly
just
enough,
like in
or?
in general, right? Like for example, my first kind of investing thing was I, ended up buying some Polygon,
Oh yeah,
and
my brother bought that. Yeah.
I made like, I don't know, I made like 60 or 70% gains or something on it. And so suddenly I'm like, well, that was lucrative. And then I started looking for other things that were similar. But like the more I like looked into it, it was like, well, they have like all these, like this whole pool. It's like 70% or something of like all the tokens like are like owned by the company.
Oh shit, no way.
And so I'm like, at any given point, they could just like, it might have been 90%. Like, it was at least 70 though. And I'm
That's
like,
too much.
they could
Yeah.
just rug it at any point. And I was like, that's just kind of terrifying.
Yeah, I don't
But
trust that at
they
all.
kept
Like they
getting all
only.
these partnerships with
Right.
like Starbucks. And I'm just like, oh, that's so conflicting because like, but like they get the partnerships because they go to Starbucks and like, hey, we'll we'll give you I don't know however many million of these tokens, and if you partner with us. And it's like, all right, so they're able to use that to get more partnerships, which gives more value to the token. But it's the same kind of thing as far as a public company. It's like, hey, we're going to dilute you guys, but we're going to use that money to reinvest. And it like makes sense because theoretically, if you invested, like when you do a dilution, theoretically, like the value didn't change because like now you just have all that money, right?
Hmm.
But the problem is when all that money goes to freaking Adam Aaron or something like on the top, like, oh yeah, $27 million needs to go to me.
Yeah.
Plus, like, it's like, okay, that's just absurd. I mean, like,
Did you see the chart of like when Adamar joined AMC,
yeah.
and then like it's like a year later, the
And,
the debt just goes to 4.5
but
billion. Like,
like it's only like now that anyone's like doing anything about it. And even now there's still like tons of people that are like, yeah, like he said that he loves us. Like, wow. Like,
yeah, were you in any of those spaces where they were talking? Like I couldn't believe some of the stuff I heard. Like I was lucky enough to find like two AMC spaces with two completely differing takes, and like one was like we just got fucked, and then they were going like he said like in my heart of hearts, I care about you guys. You know what I mean? And that actually believe in the words of this snake.
yeah.
Literally from Apollo. I mean, if you look in his history, like he's it's full of shady
You should,
examples.
you should
You
look
know,
up the Common Sense Investor. He talks about AMC.
does he?
Yeah, he's legit.
Is he? Is this a YouTube channel or
Yeah.
something? I love to read that. 'Cause I want to hear some real like teardowns because I haven't really heard much until it's like in those spaces you'll get this one sort of Indian guy. There's this one Indian guy showed up. He's like, he just very calmly described exactly the entire situation, how fucked it was, and nobody could argue with him because he was just like, he had all his facts in a row,
Yeah.
and he's just talking about the debt. He was saying definitively, this company's going bankrupt. You know, there is no scenario in which it doesn't go bankrupt. It is like a deliberate, debt spiral. I actually kind of think that's what Michael Burry was talking about when he talked about. He made a tweet about death spirals,
Yeah.
and I think he was really aiming it towards AMC. But people thought it
I
was
mean, I think
Bed
it's
Bath
all of them across the board. I mean, it's just the industry standard as far as like it's the same, they
playbook.
yeah, the same playbook. It's like that you just shift around, like you build something up and with your money, and then you swap out other people's money for your money, and then you just burn it down.
Yeah,
Like
you like overextend the store footprint or the whatever cinema
even
chain
more than
footprint.
that, it's just like, just extracting wealth, like even just through high paid execs, and that's why you can just easily see it's like, when the whole executive board of freaking, I mean, like the golden parachute that the guy who started Blue Apron, jumped out with was crazy. It was like,
What was it like?
I mean, it was like 20 something million severance pay or whatever. Like, I mean, it was just like,
God damn.
that's a lot of money. Like, how many freaking boxes of, pre-assembled food do you have to freaking, sell in
Yeah,
order to pay for that one severance pay, let alone your whole everything else,
bored.
all the shares that you had, all the, it's like
What was the share count by the end?
of
Like,
which one?
are they still going? Or Blue Apron?
Yeah,
Are they
actually
still?
they're running right now. It's kind of crazy, but
Oh
um
shit! Are you still in?
no, I'm not. I mean, I have a friend that's in and my sister actually, small positions, I guess, but
Yeah,
um
they're probably calling you a paper hand right now.
I mean, they're not apes. One is yeah.
Yeah. Did you
But
get your sister in on these plays, by the way? Like Bed
I
Bath
mean, I
and stuff?
tried. I should have. Well, I guess if it looks, I mean, who knows which one runs? I mean, Blue Apron ran like 21% today.
Damn.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it ran literally the last like 2 weeks or whatever ran, you know, 80%.
Blockbuster ran 40% today. It's 48% as
I
well.
paper handed eBet though. I don't know if you heard about that one.
eBay. No, I haven't heard of eBay.
I
It sounds
literally,
terrible, by the
yeah, it's terrible, but like
way.
I'd put it on my watch list and then it hit 3 cents and I was like, all right, I threw $300 at it. Literally
Yeah.
paper handed it like 4.50, 4.5 cents. And
Yeah,
then it
that's not
goes
too
to,
bad. It's
and
something.
then it runs to 12 cents.
Oh, man.
I was just like,
God damn it. Well, I was shilling cock on, in the spaces. Myself and Squeezes Christ there.
yeah,
You know the story. We came up with
yeah,
the stupidest ticker we could find, and we started shilling it as a joke.
yeah,
COC. Oh, that was Boom. Actually, Boom was
yeah.
the one. Because you could, you know, sell and leave a lot of bag holders and say "Boom, baby" and just walk away, and then and then it runs 40% the next day. Ridiculous.
That's
I bet
great.
Cock's gonna run now because that's the big play.
It's crazy though that we can get distracted by that. It's like literally the company doesn't matter. And that was a
Yeah,
weird, speaking of like ethical and existential crises, that like at one point I was writing some Blue Apron DD and I was like, I literally don't care at all about this company. And I
yeah,
know more than probably, I might even know more than a lot of the board members about what's going
yeah. They
on.
don't even. They're going golfing, man. They don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's like, hey guys, if you have a brain, just sell your company to Weight Watchers. Hello, like,
Yeah,
and they're like, no, we gotta like squeeze it for just take a bunch of like. It's like I don't even know. Like people are just so dumb. Like,
was there a squeeze play in there at all?
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's probably just. I mean, I wouldn't recommend necessarily jumping in if there was options available. I'd say grab some options, but
Interesting.
um, I mean, man, if it's just it'll probably run to a market cap of like 200 or 250, and it's at like 59 million market cap. So I mean,
All right.
but it might take all the way till like Q2 next year, and who knows what kind of like stuff is going to happen. And
You're
it's like,
such a shill, man. You're such a shill.
yeah, it's why I think I like, Pulte is like, and like, um, Larry Chang's, a lot of things he says, like his tweet recently is just like, you can really get rid of a bunch of all the sales cost that's like just wasted by having customer delight. Like
Yeah.
if Blue Apron would pass on those savings, just don't do 20% of sales or of wasted on advertising. Just pass on that savings to the customer, and I guarantee they're going to tell their friends.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
they won't do it, and it is, and it's because like you have all these companies like, it's the same thing with like, Bed Bath and Beyond, right? Like that there's, JP Morgan is probably in bed with people like Blue Yonder, and so it's like they're extracting all the wealth through Blue Yonder, the e-commerce solution. And it's like, well, why? Like what? Like they don't have any skin in the game. But it's like, well, they just want their people to extract more wealth. They want their friends to have these big salaries, and it's like that's not sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that the Blue Yonder thing. I don't really know much about it. Um.
So that was
Yeah.
why, my whole theory about overstock, and everyone kind of gave me crap about it at first. They're like, no, overstock, they're not going to actually go with that bid and blah, blah. I was like, why
So
wouldn't they?
you were onto Overstock like
Yeah.
before anyone was talking about it.
Yeah, and everyone kept, like, hating on me for it. I'm like, "No, like, I think that, like, they're going like, it only makes sense, right?" Like, you look at all the players that Amazon's beating everyone, right? So everyone has to join up together. I mean, it's like every revolution happens, right? You get a consolidation of power, and then all the extras that, like, are too small on their own, they all join forces, and then they, you know, take on the
Yeah.
big person.
Yeah. I
So
made a meme of a woolly mammoth getting attacked by a bunch of cavemen, and I labeled the woolly mammoth Amazon, and then the cavemen were all Overstock and Sears and Party City and Bed Bath. You know, it's
exactly.
it's all about taking down the mammoth. Um, but it's interesting. It's so interesting that you spotted that like well ahead of anyone else. That's so insightful.
Well, it just seemed like kind of the obvious thing. It's like, okay, well, Blue Yonder doesn't have any skin in the game. They're just getting their paycheck. Otherwise, otherwise, Bed Bath and Beyond would have like been making money during the pandemic. But Blue Yonder's like, oh, I don't know what they were doing. Whether they're just like, oh, we like COVID risks. Oh, we're just gonna shut down, and it's like,
Yeah,
uh.
yeah,
So like over, it's like, and then the Sue Gov interview, like she's like, look, like, um, we're going to work on the store experience. And it's like, okay, well, they don't want to be doing the online experience. They could make a deal with someone else that could just take care of that and do a better job. And it just seems like a win-win situation. And, you know, so I was all about it.
and then Overstock just came out of the blue and like took that IP shared IP sale or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Um,
when the bidding was, they were talking about the bidding. I don't know that I was like, I was just, no one thought the bid was serious, is what
yeah,
the difference was, you know?
you got attacked for that.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, like even if you like, see, this is your mind working as well. This is like you look at the wider play. Everybody's sort of distracted by kind of, I guess, the images of this and that, but then it does make perfect sense. I mean, like you're looking at Ryan Cohen going to all these like underdogs, right? That the shorts have fucked, and gathering them all together. And I mean, who's the biggest player in terms of just who got fucked the most? And it's Patrick Byrne and Overstock.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally, I think they made a separate rule for Overstock that they could short them anyway, right? Beyond reg show or something. It was like it just didn't matter. Like they openly destroyed, or attacked Overstock, targeted it for years. And Patrick Byrne is an interesting guy. He has that connection with Trump. I believe he was like advising Trump at some point. Um, you know, I think these guys, when they have a lot of money, what's left, it's kind of power too. Like it's the ability to kind of shape things with those kind of political levers, policy levers. So you can get your business done. Because we've seen, like, say, the like, I'm not either way, like, politics, whatever. I try to ignore it. But you've seen the Democrats, like, they stacked the FTC board, so they could basically reinterpret in new horrible ways, how mergers or acquisitions should be allowed, and which ones they'll give the okay. And of course, they're just, it's a racket, right? They're kind of blocking mergers that would go against the people, that are on their end, on their side. Probably the establishments like chosen longs. They
Mhm.
want to, yeah, they want to, like, keep that hegemony, and then fucking destroy the upcomers. And I mean, like, I read about it, and like, they are, the way they interpret the laws is like completely unprecedented, and it is bad for our side. But I don't think ultimately, I don't think they'll be able to kind of keep us from the kind of mergers and carve outs and stuff that are coming down the line for us.
I
But
just don't
yeah.
know how they don't like read history and like aren't like scared. It's like
Yeah.
at some point, there is pitchforks come out and
I know.
heads
I
roll.
think they
So,
hide behind the complexity of it, right? Because it's so hard to explain to just the regular person on the street, like, the levels of corruption, like the schemes. They're so huge, and they affect everyone. But there's just a one little layer of complexity that you kind of need to get by to really get your head around it.
yeah.
And I think that's what they rely on as being, kind of, for the ability to sort of be openly, sort of commit this massive fraud, right? Constantly,
And
and
what's sad is the people that they're tricking are people that the reason that they don't know is because they're busy working hard.
yeah, they're working hard because the world that was created by these corrupt people, like, yeah, created the scenario where they have to work two or three jobs, and and the only place to, the only job available in the town is the Amazon warehouse or whatever.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy how big this is. And it's encouraging to know that we're taking it on. Like, I remember being like, I'm still quite idealistic about it. I still feel that beyond just investing in a stock, I mean, it's the kind of thing that got me into Sears. It was like an underdog story. The CEO was targeted, kidnapped at gunpoint, like, paid for by Wall Street, you know, all that stuff, and literally told when he was kidnapped, so that, like, to stay out of Kmart, right? Like, because the mob's in it, and he just went through with it anyway. And it's kind of like what Ryan Cohen did.
Well, he said stay out of Wall. Oh, he said stay out of Kmart.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Like a thug being like, like a kidnapper being like, stay out of Kmart. But yeah, they were paid like 15 or 30 million, um and
What do you
to
mean to
kidnap
stay
him.
out of like they were they owned by?
No, so when Lampert left Wall Street, so he was quite young at the time. The guy who was the head of the risk arbitrage desk that he worked under, he was a brilliant guy, but he was done for something by the feds, and everyone who worked under him kind of saw their careers flashing before their eyes. And this was like one of those people were Lampert. I mean, he was like probably 24 at the time. He had already made, like, he was the first person on Wall Street to make $1 billion a year. He was making ridiculous returns for people, like, beating out Warren Buffett even, and for many years. And so that's why he was hailed as the next Warren Buffett. I know they hail everybody as the next Warren Buffett now, but Lampert was really the OG for that one.
Yeah.
Because he was the real deal. He was making, split second decisions on mergers and acquisitions, with billions of dollars on the line, every day. And and he's just great. Capital allocation. He's a genius, and he had like a meeting with his mentor, like another great trader on Wall Street, and basically said, he was really bothered by it. Like I think he's actually an ethical person, and he like the his mentor told him, there's life after Goldman, and so he left and he started his own hedge fund. And his first one of his first things he did was jump into Kmart, and Kmart was in the middle of being debt spiraled. So they had already taken it into bankruptcy. They'd taken out loads of debt, overexpanded the store footprint, all the put their goons on the board. They're all getting nice golden parachutes, ready to jump. And Lampert jumps in, he buys all the debt, it puts him in a controlling position on the board, and he's doing his financial fucking wizardry to turn the company around, and it's inevitable, right? He's literally saved the company um, in the bankruptcy, like saved over 100,000 jobs, and like a retail icon. And 3 days before the turnaround, like the emergence from bankruptcy, like the turnaround is finalized. Everybody knows there's no way this shit is going to zero. That's when he's kidnapped, right? And that's when his kidnappers point a shotgun at him and say, "Stay out of Kmart," you know. So
That's pretty crazy.
yeah, so there was obviously massive short positions on the line, and you saw it afterwards that the Kmart's share price, it did a bit of a Tesla. It kind of just rose very steadily for the next couple of years.
Hmm.
And what's great about Lampert, like people don't recognize his genius. Like I mean, people go on about Ryan Cohen and Carl Icahn, but Lambert's got some incredible plays. I mean, they're so amazing. I think when I think about them, like right after he took Kmart, I think it was a year or two later. Everybody's gone, "Geez, he fucking this guy's got something." If Kmart's price goes up, it's got this. It's like the Lampert lift or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then Sears at this point, it had been it had kind of lost its direction for many years. There'd been many failed turnarounds, and the guy at the head now was it was the worst CEO they've had, because he was literally a corporate raider. One of the things he did was, right under Sears' like giant headquarters in Chicago, there was underneath, right, so in the basement, that was where they did the quality testing for all the brand appliances and stuff. And he just gutted that whole thing. He just fired everybody and kind of outsourced it to this dodgy place. So then all of a sudden, there's all these like Kenmore grills that are just catching fire and know, lighting up the house, and exploding and stuff, because he just gutted the quality control. He
Yeah.
knew what was going to happen. And then but Wall Street loved him obviously because that was the next death spiral, right? Um, and this guy was full of himself, and Lampert knew it. So he turns to this guy and he goes, "I'll sell you a couple of Kmart stores, a dozen." And he sold them at a premium to this guy, and this guy was buying it out of ego. He's just like, "Yeah, you think you're something, right? But you want to come for me? You're the upstart. Yeah, I'll buy your Kmart stores, and I'll say, I bought, Sears is eating Kmart, that kind of thing. Just bit of a dick swinging contest." And but Lampert sold them at such a high price that it reevaluated all like 2,000 Kmart stores, right, at a higher price. So it immediately just rose the value of Kmart so much that because you have 2,000 other stores being evaluated at the premium that a dozen were sold for to this idiot. And that actually gave Kmart enough capital that Lampert could turn around and buy Sears from under this guy, you know? So, talking about plays, this guy got played so bad. And yeah, that was just one of Lambert's fucking insane things he did. Like, it was just so cool. And then you fold them together, and that was Sears Holdings.
Dang. That's pretty
Yeah,
legit.
yeah. Um,
Well, I just realized actually what time it is.
I don't want. Yeah, I don't. I could talk about Sears all night, man.
No,
But
no, no. We should start this up again.
yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. I hope I didn't like derail the
No,
show.
no, no, no. I think it was good and insightful. Actually, I've wanted to learn more about Sears.
Well, I've
Maybe
come
we'll
to the
do an
right place.
exclusive episode.
Well, I like talking about the dream interpretation stuff too, and I
If you
was
have any dreams, write them down and we'll go through them. 'em. It'd be sick.
cool, man. Well, I'd like to. Yeah, I'll catch you. I'll catch you in space. I think we should do a space or something later
Alright.
at some point. Yeah, and talk about that kind of thing. But thanks so much for having me on. I hope I didn't. I
No, no,
wasn't
you're
on.
great.
Cool, cool. Because I feel like I'm talking like on a space with you instead of like
No, it
it's your
is, and
show.
I mean, might as well I could delete it if I wanted to, but
All right, cool, cool. Well, it's up to you. All right, what are you talking about? We're talking about a lot of mad shit tonight.
it's all good. I think people will like it.
All right. Well, it's so nice to talk to you, man, and
Good to talk
take
to you.
care.